Massachusetts, Superior.
Recording started.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Town of Wenham Planning Board, Thursday, January 30th, 2025. It's 7:01 p.m. We're in Wenham Town Hall in the main meeting room at 138 Main Street in Wenham. We are also on Zoom as a convenience to the public, and we are recording the meeting for posterity. With us are the four of us. I would announce at the beginning of the meeting that Peter Clay has tendered his resignation from the planning board. We are hopeful that we will get applicants who file papers for his open seat. And so there are only four of us now, at least until the election. Let's see, what else to tell you? We're also broadcast on HWCam tonight, which I'm grateful for them, helping us with the audio and visuals here. We have a couple of public hearings tonight on zoning matters, and there are people here, I think, for some of the administrative matters on the docket, including the discussion of Spring Hill Farm and Angus Circle street acceptance. Could I ask people in the audience, if you're here for the Spring Hill Farm discussion, could you put your hand up? Okay. If you're here for one of the zoning matters, would you put your hand up? Okay. If you don't mind, I think I'd like to take the meeting out of order at the pleasure of my colleagues. I appreciate Attorney Stein staying a little later, even though I think this will be pretty quick to resolve, so we can have the discussion about the Spring Hill Farm road acceptance first.
Let's do it.
Comfortable with that?
It's fine with me.
Okay. Margaret, you have an update for us? I know this went to the select board.
It did, and the select board, in their meeting, remanded it back to you. Asked the applicants to come back to the planning board. I don't have an application for acceptance. I don't have any of the documents for acceptance, but they've asked the applicants, the homeowners, to come back to the planning board and request a recommendation to the select board to accept the street.
Do I understand also that there was conversation between the town manager and staff about public plowing?
Yeah, so I think there was a conversation between the town administrator and one of the homeowners about the process of getting the select board to approve the town to plow the street. Not to accept it at this point, but to plow it.
And
Do they take that as an action item?
Yeah.
I don't think they have. I don't think the select board
They indicate
did
that
yet,
they will?
but I think it's on their agenda for next week.
Margaret, is Ben Timon on Zoom?
I don't see Ben.
I think he's planning to be on Zoom, and he was
Is he?
planning to give us an update
he
from the
might-
select
Don't
board.
see,
We might
I
have
don't know if any of
Well, he
those are
probably
him.
thinks it's late enough in the
That's-
agenda that he doesn't have to be
That might be,
Yeah.
on.
Should we contact Ben, or, so I do
If-
know that this.
If you can, that would be helpful.
This is on their agenda for next Tuesday. This is the Select Board agenda up on the screen. And
Items.
snow and ice removal on the ways located within Spring Hill subdivision.
Because what I understood was that there is no barrier to that.
There is, correct, there is no barrier to that. There
And I
is a
think-
process for them to do that, to.
Meaning
plow
the town can agree to do that.
Yeah, they can plow a private road.
And once the select board, it's an action item next week, right? So once they make a decision on that,
Yeah. Then
We
they
have an
can do
answer.
it. Yeah, the Select Board can instruct the DPW to plow the street.
it would be super helpful to hear Ben's sense of the meeting.
I don't know if anyone from the homeowners association has any other information. Andrew might.
Yeah, sure, take the podium, thank you. You may.
All right, good to see everyone again. Andrew Goodman, 2 Angus Circle, Wenham, Mass. So I can fill in a little bit of the blank. So, and it'd be great if Selectman Timon was able to join, because I
Yeah,
know he's,
I'm gonna reach out to him right
That-
now.
you were texting him.
that'd be great. So at the Select Board meeting about a week ago, my understanding is they discussed the street acceptance issue, and we can get back to that in a second, and then separately discussed the plowing, and also the issue of, you mentioned the school buses too is an issue. The school buses won't go up the streets either because it's not a town road, right?
Oh, boy.
And so, one of the things, our priority is get the street accepted, get it on the warrant for this meeting, for the town meeting in April, and I'll come back to that in a second. But in the meantime, the plowing issue, I had emailed Steve, the town administrator, and he got back to me, I believe it was last night, and said that they are discussing that at the select board meeting this coming Tuesday. And then I saw on the agenda, which was posted too, that they also have discussion of street acceptance for Spring Hill. And so going back to the street acceptance, my understanding was that the select board, I don't know if it's the right term, remanded it back or sent it back to the planning board to consider. And, it's clear, we know obviously the developer is not going to put forth an application for street acceptance. I think we all know that. And I think we also all know that there's the issue of the affordable housing. What I think, and what Margaret, had sort of mentioned to me too, and I thought was a very good idea, was if we could separate, I've been saying this for a couple of meetings now, if we could separate the affordable housing issue and the street acceptance, because I think street acceptance, my understanding is it's a matter of state law, and that street's ready to go. I mean, you had to release the bond because your independent engineers went out there and said that they met all the qualifications for the street, so the bond was released. So my view is the street's ready to go, ready to be accepted. We as an HOA have sort of gotten organized a bit more around this issue. In the coming days, we're going to have a meeting and put in trustees, take over from where the developer left off. And I think what we can say to you is that if you recommend putting the street acceptance on the warrant for this town meeting in April, that between now and then, we'll work with the town to get what you need for the street to be accepted, which my understanding is it's just 2 things, and they're already pretty much done. One is the as-built plan, which as it May 2024, the as-built, there needs to be one modification, and that's one of our neighbors, who might even be here tonight, has an easement that just needs to be, documented as
Sorted.
modified. And I think my friend Jens, and they're ready to go with that, and they communicated with the town Monday morning first thing. So
Sorry,
With the-
what was the one thing that needed to be modified?
there's an easement on one of the homeowners' properties, just to move the easement to get to the catch basin at the end of Spring Hill Farm Road.
Margaret, is that your understanding as well? that
It's
that's
not
what
quite
needs
as
to be done?
simple as that. We were approached by the owners of 15 Spring Hill Farm Road last year about the easement on their property and the location of it, and they wanted to put a small retaining wall at the end of their driveway, which was the beginning of the easement that leads to a detention basin. It's a large stormwater retention structure behind the house. So the DPW director and I went out there, and we instructed them to send us a new easement language, legal easement language, and it shown on a plan, so this board could accept that. They haven't done that. They did put the retaining wall in before we had officially gone through the process with you. So we went out there again, and they said that they were going to grant the DPW easement through their driveway and abandon the old one and go straight through their driveway. And we went out there to look at it because we got a call from the neighbor who said they've done more work. They added large stone steps at the back of the property that the DPW director has determined cannot be driven over. So on Monday, they sent me something that shows some kind of a ramp, and the DPW director is not ready to accept that at all. We told them that they need to have a legal document drawn up that shows the new easement and how they're going to maintain that easement so that the trucks can get through there. And we don't have that yet, so that's where we stand with that part of it. The
Can
other,
I speak to that briefly?
yep, the
Margaret?
other part is we need, we do need easements for other properties on the site to get to the detention basins.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Please state your name and your address for the
Hi,
record.
Jens Hinrichsen, 15 Spring Hill Farm Road. Margaret, good
Yep.
to see you. Thank you. The only piece that we're anticipating or waiting for is the ramp proposal acceptable or not? You're saying now, and we hadn't heard, we're saying that is
No, we
not
didn't,
acceptable?
So we haven't gone through what that ramp looks like. Rich Souza, our
Mhm.
DPW director, looked at it briefly, but he has not had a chance to go over
Yeah.
the actual details and mechanics of how that would work.
Right. And I think, at least from our conversations, and you've been
Yep.
so helpful educating us in all this, right, is until we've at least got you, Rich, I don't know if Kate's involved in this process, to say, yes, that's an acceptable way, which, by the way, you mentioned these steps that were put in. We have elderly parents. It's the only way that we can get them down into the back suite, right? So that is kind of the driver there.
Yeah.
Until we had the blessing to say, yes, this is acceptable for a truck to be able to ingress, egress, then we're going to be able to very quickly with Hayes and with our attorney
Yeah.
get all those other steps. I think it's just a sequencing part that we just wanted to be sure we're on the right wavelength.
Well, we first need to have the location of the easement drawn on a plan and the legal language brought to this board for an approval.
Okay.
And the technical part of getting over those stairs is yet to be determined. I don't know that Rich, our DPW director, has any experience with those, and
Okay.
whether a truck would, not that you couldn't maybe get down them, but could you get back up them? And would the truck be,
Okay.
I don't know. We've never seen anything like that. So.
Okay, well, and that's where, again, we're looking for guidance, because I think,
Yeah.
based on our last conversation, and again, you've been so gracious in terms of coming out and
Right.
giving guidance. Our last conversation was we were going to provide a rendering that's subject to approval. We would then proceed forth with all the necessary
Yeah.
legal work. We just didn't want to do it out of sequence, especially if it's something that wouldn't be approved. And we're open to,
Yeah.
I mean, we hope this is a tertiary issue,
Yeah.
considering the more, I won't say more pressing, because this obviously has to get addressed.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure we're just doing this the right way,
Yeah.
right?
And I think what happened was, you put the wall in, or they put the wall in, and we went out and said, okay, the wall is okay, as long as we could get down
Mhm.
through your driveway and down that bank, and that was fully open at the time. And between then and getting any other conversation with you, you put those stairs in.
Well, there was
That
also
yeah.
a tree that was put in that cut,
Yeah.
there were other factors here,
Yeah.
right? But
But
at
I
the end
think
of the
the
day, we just
stairs
want
were
this
what was
to,
Really,
we just want to be able to do this in the most amenable fashion. So, again, thank you, Margaret.
Thank you for explaining it.
Can I go back to the affordable housing
You can,
plan?
and we've heard that Ben Timon is going to join in a couple minutes.
Oh,
and
just
here,
so you
yep,
know.
That-
I got him.
That's great. So on the affordable housing issue, the select board also discussed that issue. And we had, not surprisingly, I spoke to them as I'm speaking to you, right? And they recognize that that's an issue as well. And so, I don't want to obviously speak in word for word what the select board said, but the general consensus, I believe, was that nobody believes that the homeowners or the HOA are responsible for this affordable housing issue, right? We all want it to be, satisfied, but it's really a developer and issue with the town. And the select board now has on its agenda for, I believe it's February 18th, an executive session with legal counsel to discuss potential legal remedies against the developer on the affordable housing issue. So that goes again to my point that I think you got to separate the affordable housing issue from the street acceptance. And I think that what we propose to do as a HOA is work with the town to get everything done. So if you can recommend acceptance and getting it on the warrant, so that we can it can be on the warrant for the meeting on April. And my understanding is there's a way that if we weren't able to get, satisfy the requirements of, the easement and the as-built, that you could just pull the recommendation at the meeting and, it wouldn't get done. But we'd like to tee it up so that it's ready to get done. And then there's also, sort of separately, everybody I think is working of the same mind to get the plowing issue resolved too, because that's sort of a real-time thing.
I can see that Ben Timon has joined, and we were talking earlier about the select board meeting on Tuesday, which I'm super glad that the homeowners went to you and gave you their all the facts about what's been going on up on Spring Hill. And I'm wondering if you wanted to just say a couple words, Ben, about what the sort of sense of the room was, if you can do that. I don't know if you feel comfortable doing that, but just sort of report on the meeting, because you were there in person, obviously. Thanks.
Sure. No, I'd be happy to give an update from the select board's perspective. So, and I know that the planning board has been working on Spring Hill for a long time. The residents are very engaged with the street acceptance issue. So Mr. Goodman, on behalf of the neighborhood and also many residents of the neighborhood, as you said, Ann, came to our meeting last week to talk about this. And I think our perspective as a board was, number one, to do what I believe you and the planning board had also done on a prior meeting, which was to encourage the homeowners association to explore its legal remedies against the developer, who I think we on the board recognize, based on the information we have, has not been really participating in this process in the manner that they should, whether that's on the street acceptance or on the affordable housing condition that was part of the subdivision approval. So the other thing that occurred, and I just joined the Zoom, a minute ago, but I think I heard Mr. Goodman allude to the fact that we as a select board decided we voted to schedule an executive session. I don't think it's actually been scheduled yet. I know it's not occurring next Tuesday, but probably in February, to have an executive session to discuss potential legal remedies that the town might pursue against the developer with respect to the unfulfilled affordable housing condition. And so that's something that obviously we would want to work with the planning board on if in fact the select board decides that litigation, perhaps is appropriate, or at least signaling to the developer that might be something that is going to happen. The only other update that I would give is that I do know that the town administrator has conferred with KP Law, legal counsel, as well as with the DPW, and the word that I've received as one select board member is that that is something that the DPW would be prepared to do, specifically to provide plowing services on this private road even before it might be accepted as a public road, that it's consistent with past practice, at least at some level, and it's also fully justified from a public safety point of view, given that public safety vehicles would need to be able to access properties there. And legal counsel has also given the green light in terms of the select board and the town having the discretion anyway to make that happen. And so, I'm only one member of a 5-member board, but my expectation would be that the board would fully support the DPW providing those services, even irrespective of whether street acceptance is put on the town meeting warrant for this spring. So those are the updates that I have that maybe are pertinent to your discussion tonight.
Thanks, that's super helpful. As you know, we always are hesitant to recommend that a street be accepted by the town until the whole development is complete, And here we have an unusual situation because we have a completed street but not a completed development. I don't know, I think we've probably talked about this around and around and around, and it's not going to get any better on its own, so we're going to have to make a decision tonight about recommendation. Obviously, it's the select's, it's your job to take the recommendation or lack thereof and move the warrant or not. So I guess I should, I don't know that we need to have a further public conversation about it. I think the board needs to have a discussion, a brief discussion, and then we need to vote on this.
Well, I think, actually, I'd like to give other people an opportunity if they want to talk. I mean, I think there is a little more discussion I'd like to have. I mean, I just want to make a couple points. One is going back to my understanding of what the state law is regarding street acceptance, right? This street, I mean, it's been approved by the independent engineers. It's ready to be accepted.
We understand that.
Okay, it's not tied to the affordable housing issue.
We understand that.
And then I would also ask you to think about, when you're considering this, how would not getting the street accepted at the town meeting help you in the affordable housing issue? There's really no way that I can think of that that's going to help you get what you want with affordable housing.
I think you're assuming you know how we're going to vote.
Well, no, I'm not assuming that, but I just want to make sure everybody in this room gets a chance to speak before the vote so that you're well informed. That's all. So I'll sit down, and if other people would like to talk, I'd ask that you give them a chance.
I would ask that they be brief. I think we have heard from everyone. We understand. And I will say that I also spoke to Megan from Habitat for Humanity between the meetings, and I imagine other people on the board have as well. I think we have a pretty good feel for the whole contours of this thing. We're happy always to take people's views. We do have 2 other public hearings tonight that we have to get through, so if you could be brief. If you're offering something new that hasn't been said before, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to just get up and say your name and where you live so that we have a record of that, that's fine too. But I know Attorney Stein is staying late so that we can put your matter forward first. So if you could be brief, I would appreciate it, because we've now had several meetings about this, and I think we really do fully understand and appreciate everybody's situation. Does anyone else want to? I mean, I don't want to cut off debate, but I think it's, unless anyone here.
I can give an update on the affordable units?
That would be
great. Is that okay? So I'm on the, Rick Woodland, I'm on the Community Preservation Committee, and I'm chair on that committee, and last night we had to vote on which requests for funding would be approved by the CPC and then sent on to the warrant for approval by the town, because it's your tax dollars. So the idea was we have to go through this process. So one of the requests came from Habitat for Humanity. I don't know if Megan's still
here.
online. Oh, there she is. She might want to back me up, but we asked for a budget from them on the project on Spring Hill Farm, and it became very clear in her budget analysis that, as I understand it, I'm not technical with all this stuff, that the Habitat people would be funding the first of the 2 units in that building that isn't built yet.
I was sitting somewhere and Daddy took my seat.
Would you please mute? Though it's adorable.
That they'll assume responsibility for funding that unit based on getting the grant, the grant money they got from the former developer and the land that was donated to them. And what their request was for $150,000 from the Community Preservation Act to build a 3rd unit inside that 2. So it'd be 2 in 1, a duplex that you won't even notice, and then the other unit that's along Dodge's Row. And we approved that for town to go to the town. So I think the project, even though the developer has kind of scofflawed all this and kind of not been very cooperative, I think the town's supporting building those units now as is. And Megan, if you wanted to add anything to that conversation or change it if you need to, please feel free.
Hi, Rick. Thanks. My name is Megan O'Neill. I'm the Executive Director of Essex County Habitat for Humanity. And I would just echo Rick did a great job just summarizing that. So our request to the Community Preservation Committee is for funding of the 3rd unit, which would be the additional unit. And so that is good news to hear that there was a favorable vote last night for support of that unit, and we are working to get additional funding from other sources for the funding of the 2nd unit. We're also using the funds that the developer had given us, which was $40,000 towards that unit, and we'll figure out. I would love it if the developer would come up with some funds. I think we are all in the same boat with where we are with him. But so we are moving forward towards the creation of the affordable housing there.
Thank you, Megan. So from my perspective as a member of the planning board and some fiduciary responsibility to the town, I believe that the original document, the original subdivision plan for 2 or 3 units, we kind of filled it, right? That Megan and Habitat's taking on responsibility for the 2nd unit, and the town will now help finance the 3rd unit, which is, I think, the best way we could kind of pull it all together. Did that make sense, Ann?
It does make sense. And I'm really pretty deeply appreciative of the amount of conversation we've had about this, because everyone has been pulling their hair out, I guess I would say.
Well.
See the result over here. Over this project, but I think the net result of the conversations we've had is positive. And I think without the conversations we've been having, it would not be. It would be contentious. And so I really deeply appreciate everybody's work together on this cooperatively. And I don't know if anybody else on the board has any comment or thought or...
Are we going to discussion? Is that?
I think we're going
this
to
point?
discussion
Okay.
unless
We're
there's
done
someone
with
who wants to add something at the podium or online. I think we're going to discussion.
Okay.
So,
So you want me to go first?
well, I've heard from Rick.
So if I'm understanding this right, we're being asked to recommend street acceptance to the select board to put it on the warrant for the annual town meeting. Is that right? So
Yes.
I appreciate the developments. The fundamental problem that I see right now is we don't have an application for street acceptance. We don't have necessary documentation for street acceptance. We have multiple easement issues that, in my opinion, that preclude us from recommending street acceptance at this time. Not that we couldn't recommend street acceptance at some point in the future, but I don't think that we could recommend this right now with nothing formally in front of us and ask the select board or tell the select board that we think it's ready for acceptance, because factually, I don't think that's the case. Happy to hear the progress on the affordable units, but I do still think that there are some issues with the developer that if we were to recommend street acceptance right now, would undermine our position or the town's position if the select board is going to go forward with litigation against the developer. So I don't see how, right now I'm a no vote because I don't understand how we could recommend something that's not in front of us.
What about a conditional vote? In other words, recommend conditional on the papers being presented before town meeting.
I don't think we have a grasp, or, well, I don't think it's been articulated what the papers are that need to be presented to us, right? There are multiple.
Application.
No, there's the application, I understand that, but we have easement issues that we've raised in multiple meetings here. And it's not just one lot. There are multiple easements that haven't been finalized for this. So none of that has been presented to us yet.
What are the multiple easements?
I believe there are other lots on the street that have easements that haven't been finalized, right, Margaret?
Yeah, we don't have any of that
Right.
language. The detention basins, it's basically so that the DPW can access.
Yeah, I understand that on the
And
the
that's
last lot.
one lot,
That's
but-
one lot.
There's
Alright,
two,
the
there's a
other
big one at the very beginning
Yeah.
also.
That's a common
Huh?
That's a common area.
Right, but just to come back to tonight,
It's owned by.
that I don't think that we have what's required to be in front of us to recommend it. I'm uncomfortable saying conditionally because I don't know how the timing is going to work out. I'm not sure exactly what the documents are that we need. I think we're going to be having another town meeting after April in short order before June.
We have to.
So there is more time for you to put that together and come back to us so that we can be in a more informed position to recommend this to the select board. But given the state of where we are tonight, I'm not comfortable with a recommendation at this point.
Well, I think.
I think, Mr. Goodman, I think we're right now in the board discussion phase.
David?
I agree with what Dan said in principle. I think also thinking back 30 days ago, I think to your point, Mr. Goodman, you raise a very good point, which is what will the town get in terms of the affordable housing unit by not approving street acceptance? And the answer is, I don't know. Because I have not had any conversation with council. We haven't had an executive session. I don't know what we lose by giving it up. I know that it's highly unusual that the residents would be applying for street acceptance. And my guess is that normally the applicant has to make certain representations and warranties, and there's all kinds of things and recourses if they're wrong. And so that means they're going to fall on you as the applicant. There's just all kinds of questions in a highly unusual procedure. I don't really know. The other piece that we were going to, I think, maybe hear from you all on, or maybe counsel for you, is what your leverage is, whether you're inside or outside of the HOA. Not asking you to take that action, but there was some talk about that. I mean, what I said at the last meeting was we're in partnership and aligned insofar as we want the developer to fulfill his obligations and agreement with this town. And this is a different path, and I think to me it presents, wildly different considerations that aren't in front of us right now. So I do agree with Dan on that piece.
Okay,
But I'll also add, I'm super glad that the DPW may be willing to plow. And, the buses is not before us.
Is willing to plow.
Plow.
There is no legal impediment to them.
And the buses are not within the jurisdiction of this town, let alone this board, but I hope they go up the hill as well, because I don't want your kids coming down the hill and whatever. I mean, I want that for you all. I'm just terrified. We've sat in front of the developer and his representatives, as you have as well, and not gotten straight answers. I voted against releasing the bond. I thought we should have taken that position with him. I didn't win that vote. I don't want to give this guy an inch. He has consistently thumbed his nose at the town and at you all. That's my perspective. I don't want to give him an inch, so when I say I'm not ready to vote on this, it's really because I'm not so sure I'm ready to let him off the hook, if that's what we're in fact doing here.
Is it fair to ask Robin for an opinion about whether we're letting him off the hook if we vote for street acceptance? Or I don't see the leverage, and I know we haven't asked you to prepare
On
for
the
this.
spot, sorry,
So
Robin.
just say no if you don't feel comfortable.
You're going to waive any privilege if you do that.
Well, okay,
On
fair.
top of that, I
Fair.
mean, there in my mind, just as I listen to the discussion, a lot of questions I think would need to be answered and information I would need to have before I could comment on this.
Of course,
anyway.
that's true.
And to follow up on Dave's comments, one thing I am willing to recommend to the select board, which I think they're going to take this course anyway, is that I think it's the sense of the board that it's great that the DPW could step in and do the plowing for you.
Definitely.
Provided that the select board can work out the proper arrangement, but that's something I think we as a board could recommend to the select board. But the larger issue, which is putting something on the warrant, I don't think we can.
Well, and even if we did put something on the warrant, we could recommend the plowing because
Right.
something has to happen between now and then. There's no snow in April, likely, but there is now, so.
I'm not, I think we can solve the affordable housing issue.
Yeah.
That to me is a little different, but safety, I won't compromise safety. If the fire department or DPW needs access in certain things, we got to make sure that's fulfilled. I can live with, we can even pull the affordable housing out of there. I think there's enough energy around it as it is now that it shouldn't be we can fight later, but we could at least say that I feel comfortable that both Habitat and the town is comfortable with that right now. But the safety stuff, I'm not ready to accept that.
If you have a solution on the affordable housing, then, which was the main obstacle.
That's not the main obstacle. The main obstacle is things not being done as suggested, needed to be done, retaining walls, and there'd be a couple of them now. That's what I'm concerned about.
So, my concern is like these issues keep expanding. My understanding was there was one easement that needed to get sorted out with our neighbor who spoke, and that's on
And
its way.
I know, can I?
I think if you look at the subdivision plan for the whole development, that you'll see there's multiple easements on the plan. And that's probably the easiest way to direct you to those issues. We're not expanding issues. We've talked about these issues in previous meetings, going back as far as last year or longer. So,
But that was with
and-
the
and-
developer, like, and then the
and-
developer's not putting an application, so we're coming in here late, right? And my understanding was you needed an as-built that showed the modified easement and the easement plan, which we're prepared to do, and we have the time to do it before the meeting. And I thought it was actually an elegant solution to get the recommendation, and if we don't have it, just pull the rec at the meeting. But we got the HOA, we're gonna elect trustees in the next couple of days, we've talked to lawyers. So like, we're doing everything, I feel like each time we come, we get more stuff we need to do. I mean, the affordable housing issue is now been solved.
We think it's been solved. If the town agrees with that expenditure, then we may have solved the affordable housing issue. Okay, so but this is the thing, it's process.
I don't
Excuse me.
I just don't entirely agree with that.
Okay, that's
Go ahead.
okay, that's okay. But
You don't have to. It's
you don't have to at this point. This stuff takes time. And what we're saying is that the process administratively with outside consultants to verify the work, for you folks to get your as-built done, to get your community set up, that's taking time. And I understand that you want to put it conditionally on there. I think there may be some people that would say, let's put it conditionally on there. But there's a lot of process that goes into all of this stuff. And that can be frustrating when you're an outsider dealing with it. It was frustrating for me when I first got involved with town stuff. But it does take a while to work it all the way through. Legal opinions take a few days. Everything takes a few days. So that's why we're being concerned about timing for the annual town meeting.
Right, I'm concerned about it too, because if we miss this April, then we have to wait potentially, another year. And so
You won't wait another year. You'll wait until we have the MBTA hearing, because we have to have that. And do you have a guess about a date for that?
I don't know. I don't know if the
June,
select board
Probably June.
has
June.
decided. Ben may have some insight.
And so could I ask somebody,
I can
I'm willing to.
address that if you'd like.
Somebody for an hour and go through exactly what needs to be put on an application.
But we need to have it tonight. I think that's what I'm hearing my colleagues say. It's if we don't have it tonight. Ben, did you have something you wanted to say? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Goodman.
No, just it was asked about when it's expected that there might be a special town meeting
Yeah.
on MBTA, and nothing has been set, but the consensus that's developing on the board is that it would occur in the first half of June in order to, attempt to meet the July 14th new
Deadline.
benchmark that the emergency regulations have stated.
So we're talking about 2 months.
Right, yeah, 2 months after the annual, roughly.
So
right.
I think the sense of this board is we want to help you. However, there's just things that we feel are concerning and precedent setting if we go ahead now.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that we can recommend not doing something to the select board, and they can decide to override our recommendation. We don't have to say, go and do this, and they will then do it. They can always override whatever we recommend, because it's only a recommendation. So, understand that too.
Can I'll ask one more question now.
You might want to go to the mic so that the people on Zoom can hear you.
So obviously I'm disappointed with how this vote went, but
We haven't voted yet.
okay, you haven't voted yet, so you're saying there's a chance. If the vote goes the wrong way, I would just ask if there is somebody I could, or the HOA can come talk to and sit down with and get a definitive understanding of exactly what we need to present, because it's been very amorphous. It's been, just the as-built and the easement. I mean, if there's...
Staff and the town
Okay.
administrator,
Okay, so, because that would be very helpful.
right? And the building, do you need the building inspector there too? No.
No, not necessarily. I can go through
Public
the
Works?
process. It hasn't been.
Here's the thing. If you're going to take on the obligation of the applicant, which is normally the developer, then the process is the developer, 99 out of 100 times, gets an attorney. The attorney is the shepherd of the documents, the things that need to be done, meets with town staff, and puts together a package, which town staff reviews and then presents to us. And then we have it in front of us, and we can make a recommendation. So let's flip the question on its head. What is 2 months by? There will not be snow, most likely, because street isn't accepted at the meeting. Even if it went up, you would have another period of time until it's formally conveyed, right? I think that's the way it is. So if we were to vote on something that's not before us right now, as opposed to in the next 2 months, if you get an attorney, or you can do it yourself if you want to do that, work with staff to prepare the application. There's attorneys out there, I'm sure, that do this all the time and present it. That's what the applicant would normally do, and normally it's a developer.
Right. This is not a normal situation.
It is definitely not a normal situation.
And there's usually an engineer involved as well.
Well, because we had been told several times that the May 24 as-built that the developer did was acceptable if it was just tweaked updated for the easement that needs to be moved, rather than go out and get a whole new as-built. So that would be like a new ask. And so I'm just trying to, we'd like to do this as quickly and as cost efficiently as possible. And I know it's not going to be ideal or perfect or what you'd get from a developer.
But it needs to be, because this is a big street and a big development in Wenham. Like, the town is taking on this obligation. and I hope it does. But if we as fiduciaries to the town are going to recommend yes or no on the acceptance, we have to have that, we have to do our diligence on behalf of the town. And that's a properly assembled and presented plan for acceptance. Because the alternative is, despite your good faith and best efforts, we don't get that. And then we feel our heartstrings tugged one way or the other. And if we accept it, it turns into a liability for the town. What do we tell the rest of the town?
But you already released the bond because the independent engineers approved the street.
That's fine, but what about the easements or other types of issues? These can
We're
create...
ready, willing, and able. We're working on that.
I understand, but that's part of an application plan. My understanding is certification of title of the as-built specifications. If that's not in front of us and we don't have that, or the town doesn't have it, or it's not properly done, I think that's where getting someone with experience in these types of applications is going to serve you very well.
Can I ask a question just on the phone? Sorry, this is Mark McGee.
Yes, please state your address so we have it for the record.
Yep. It's 5 Spring Hill Farm Road. Just out of curiosity, so outside of the plowing, in terms of the obligation stated, if something happens on the street, right, in an area basically that the town theoretically would assume liability over if it was an actual accepted street, who is liable for that? Is it us, or is the town going to assist if something went awry in an area that in the future would be theoretically the obligation of the town? The reason I'm asking the question is because this is why we're so worried about the lengthiness of this. The plowing is one thing, but if an unforeseen event happens, we're not protected as tax-paying citizens.
What kind of what kind of event are you?
Earthquake.
Not an earthquake. I'm just saying basically, okay, say in this process drags on for 2-3 years, and this yes, and the road needs to be paved, or say there's a big pothole that arises in the street, or say one of the catch basins fails. Is that just on us as an HOA? Is because the builder's not going to assume liability on that.
So the short
builder
answer is
theoretically
yes.
has walked away from the situation. In my mind,
Mr. McGee,
now that they have the money,
the short answer
are not
to
going
your
to basically
question
come in and submit the approval. What motivation does the builder have to come in and actually submit a proposal for the street?
Okay.
We've turned off your mic just for a second because we're trying to give you an answer. The answer is yes. Right now, the homeowners association is responsible, and we don't think that's a good thing necessarily. And I think if we could, I think everybody sitting here would say yes, we want to recommend this street be accepted. But a number of us are feeling like there just are T's that need to be crossed and I's that need to be dotted before that can be a possibility. At least one of us is willing to say, I would recommend it conditional on receipt of the paperwork, and if the paperwork is not received, then I would say my recommendation would be not to move it forward until the June meeting. I don't know that there's no motion on the floor about that right now, but that's what I would say. But until even if we recommend it tonight, the homeowners association is still liable for everything until the town accepts the street. So, yes, the answer to your question is yes. The homeowners association and the people in it are the responsible parties until the street is accepted.
Can we unmute him again?
And Margaret's going to take you off mute now.
I didn't mute him. He's muted.
Oh, you didn't mute him. Sorry.
Oh, I muted myself. No, again, and I mean, I think that's
the fundamental problem.
One of the additional risks that we're just, obviously worried on, and I just feel like, just speaking frankly, in terms of trying to understand the builder's motivation to go forward with the street approval process, I'm going to be honest, I don't see one.
No, and I think what I'm hearing from the homeowners association is that you guys are planning to move forward with it.
I think we have to. The developer is not going to do it.
Right.
You guys also just suggested that it's a very cumbersome process.
Yeah. you ask if they've spoken to the developer? Have any of them spoken to the developer?
I'm confident you guys have spoken to the developer about this, and
You guys have spoke to the developer, right?
well, we've tried.
I sent an email.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, no, yeah, no, I
You
understand.
don't get answers, you don't.
He,
It's a rhetorical question we're all asking.
well, he said to me that he did not feel it was worth applying this year because he felt your stance on it would be to not accept it because of the affordable housing. And that was the last I heard from him.
Right,
But
and
I
that
didn't know
was like
whether they've had
November?
different conversation with him since then, that he may intend to do it for next year. Or if he may be
Well, I
persuaded
think
to
what we're
participate in that.
trying to do is for June at the latest.
Okay.
So yes.
Please. I thought this was going to be faster.
Angel Goodman, 2 Angus Circle in Wenham. I just want to, so us as a HOA responsible for this road, how is this putting people's safety first? I mean, we don't know, like you're saying, what to do. We're going to fix a road. That's not really safe either. So this is why we're very concerned that we need to move this forward with the town, because financially, but also safe-wise, like if something like Mark was saying goes wrong, what are we really going to do? We need help.
I hear you.
So I think the underlying issue here is getting the developer to do what the developer is supposed to do, and not to repeat what we said at the last meeting, but we as a town are exploring what our options are with respect to the developer, and you as a homeowners association and you as purchasers from this developer also have the ability to pursue some options. So that may be something worth exploring as well. Yep.
Hi, I'm Rick Fredrickson, 7 Spring Hill Farm Road, Wenham. So a couple things. To your comment here that we should, I interpret that as we should find some ways to use our leverage on the developer. I don't think that's appropriate. I think it's practical from your standpoint at this point, but I don't think that an agreement ever should have been made with the developer that could have left a situation where we all have to come in here and be told that we need to flex on the developer, right? So I think that's, in my opinion, a mistake that your predecessors made here 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever that was. So that's one thing. On the topic of timing, April, June, etc., my concern is that if we don't have April as an opportunity, then we don't have June as a backup, right? Maybe something goes wrong at the last minute for April, and then we have June as a backup. Instead, we're going June. We miss that for some reason, and now we're off to what, another 6 months, 4 months? I don't know. So that's an issue to me. And then lastly, if you would consider this conditional approval, I want you to look at these folks here. I think you mentioned in spirit of partnership, we've been probably as engaged as any group of citizens. I've been up here on 3 different issues so far, and I think it's been nothing but, good faith partnership. So I just would ask if you do consider that conditional, that I don't think there's any group of citizens that you could trust more to get those things done in time for that town meeting than us. So think about it.
Any more discussion?
Jared Mackin, 6 Spring Hill Farm Road. I just wanted to clarify, this is new information regarding Habitat for Humanity. What are the next steps to communicate to the developer? Because it sounded like in November, they were not going to submit for approval because of the affordable housing. Now that that's been resolved, has there been any communication, or will there be any communication from the board to reach out to the developers?
It's not been resolved by this board. It has been resolved by the CPC, saying that we would fund the 3rd unit. And that was just presented to this board tonight while you were here. So we
And that
haven't
just
discussed
happened,
that.
like, last night.
Last night. So there were a lot of moving parts this time of year. This is just one of them.
Yeah.
So I presented that to them now as the representative to the CPC. We'll discuss that. It might change people's opinion. It might not.
Yeah.
But it's just a step at a time. So I was confident that we made a good agreement that the town's money wasn't going to get wasted. Habitat took the responsibility for that first full apartment. We're just helping them with the third unit, which was above and beyond, I believe, what the developer was on the hook for.
I take your point, though, that now that this has been reached, maybe we, or the staff, reach out to the developer and say, are you going to put in for a street application?
Yeah, is there a way that maybe we could continue working together and maybe communicate together to understand? Because I think that's the challenge that we run into. We've all tried to communicate with the developers with little success. And so with
I have an idea.
Take it away.
Margaret, can you send a letter, email, whatever, request that the developer show up at our next planning board meeting next month?
I can do that, yes.
Thank you. Because I think that's the challenge that we keep running into. Like, we are on the same page. We're working together.
We're neighbors, right?
Yeah.
We don't want, I hope so. I want to be. And I think that's the challenge here is great update with the Habitat for Humanity. That's amazing. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, they put us here. And we're trying to do everything we can right now to get this resolved. And to Mark's point, the unforeseen issues that could take place could be devastating. And we just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can. And my concern is, the closest, in my opinion, direction to resolution is the developer submitting the as-built plan because they have the expertise and the experience doing it. We do not. And so that's where my request comes in in the event that we do not get communication, is there anything that could be done conditionally to support us? Because that, to me, would be a partnership. So, thank you.
Well, I would like to move that we recommend to the select board a conditional approval of the request to accept the street. The condition being that the appropriate paperwork and plats and all the information needed be in front of us at our next planning board meeting. Otherwise, I would want to say no to that, back off of that. Not a very beautiful or well-drafted motion, but that's what I would move.
I can second that motion, Madam Chairman.
I don't know if this is a point of order or point of inquiry or whatever you want to call this. I don't think we actually have a request for street acceptance in front of us.
We don't, so it's a procedural nicety, but we do need the paperwork. That's why it's conditioned. It's more like a sense of the board to give something to the select board.
I understand, so I just want to understand the motion. So the motion is to make a recommendation for conditional or a conditional recommendation for acceptance?
Conditional recommendation for acceptance.
Before we have a request for acceptance.
Conditioned on the receipt of a request for acceptance with the fully completed set of plans and paperwork necessary by our next meeting.
I'm not sure we can make a recommendation without even a request in front of us.
You have a request.
Well, we don't have a.
You don't have the form and
you document it the way you want it.
We respectfully, we don't actually have a request for street acceptance in front of us. There's been, I understood this conditional acceptance a couple of different ways. One of which would be, there's the request, there are some loose ends that need to be tied up, provided that all the loose ends get tied up, then there'd be a recommendation. But we don't even have step one here, which is a formal application requesting acceptance. So, I'm not even comfortable going to the conditional stage without the request in front of us.
Can I just throw something kind of crazy out there? Do we have the ability to, we have to post this 48 hours or so many days, a meeting, we have to post so many days in advance. We don't have to post that request as a public meeting, right? We don't have to do all that. So could we, as a group, commit to doing a single issue, Zoom-only meeting in 5 days, however many days it takes to get it posted properly, where the one issue is they've turned in the application, we can make this motion, we can satisfy Dan's requirement, request that we have it in the planning office, and then we could say, now make the conditional motion within the time frame that would be acceptable to the select board to get the warrant done right. Did that make sense?
Yeah, what's the deadline for the warrant?
Well, next Tuesday, they're going to vote to close the warrant. The warrant
Which they
is
can reopen
currently
at any
open,
time
And
if-
they can reopen it, yeah, at any time. That would be up to the select board.
And does that make sense to you from the select board perspective, maybe?
What, that we can reopen the warrant and
No,
add
that
something?
we would hold in about 4 or 5 days a planning board meeting, a single issue planning board meeting via Zoom, where we accept their paperwork and then offer that conditional acceptance, giving them the next couple of months till April to figure out all the details.
They're not going to be able to prepare this in 4
I
days.
don't think they can do this in 5 days.
Okay.
But I don't know, I've never done one of these. I would come here in 2 weeks and review a package and make a recommendation. That may be you may be able to do that. If you can get an attorney to put it together in
Whoever
2
put it
weeks, or
together.
do whatever.
Or maybe the developer puts it together if we have this conversation following up on the.
But I will come here for a special meeting if you can get us the application.
So who do I sit down with to go over what needs to be in the application? Margaret?
Margaret Hoff.
Yeah.
But-
I would recommend, though, that they have an engineer and an attorney that can help them put together those documents, because we can't put together the easement language or the engineered plans for them.
So you need a crew. You'll need Margaret's input, but as she just mentioned, you'll need the engineer and the attorney.
Right, but I'm just thinking action plan. So while we're getting the attorney and the engineer, I'd
Yeah.
like to be able to come down, Margaret, and talk to you to get the definitive list. So while and then presumably we're gonna use the same engineer that's been working on this.
It's a good idea,
It
yeah.
probably makes sense.
That makes sense, right?
I don't know. We don't recommend.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I can meet with you on Tuesday.
Can you guys do February 11th? We're meeting on the 13th.
I'm in DC on the 11th.
Where are we
Tuesday?
with respect to the
We
motion?
We have my
a
motion on the
table.
floor.
Well, we can take a vote or we can amend it. So I can amend it, or I don't know if it'll be an amendment or a separate one, but
Or we can table it.
We can table it.
And there's no vote that goes to the select
Correct.
board.
I mean, we're meeting on the 13th. So if
I will not be here.
if
Oh, wait, no, what? Maybe I will be. I will be.
if I would even, normally we wanted these things in advance, like you give us something shiny and nice from an engineer the day before, I will sit down and read it. And we can recommend it at that meeting, at the start of that meeting. That gives you like 2 weeks to pull it together. That's a process I can get behind, because then I'm reviewing something that actually we're making a recommendation on.
Yeah, and we'll get with Margaret as soon as we can to understand exactly what we need to tell the engineer we need.
So where is is it in the subdivision rules and regs, or is it under state law, or both, for what's required for street acceptance?
Our subdivision rules and regs do have the information in there, but there's also some state law that we need to follow.
What about like Wenham Pines? Was there an application for Wenham Pines for street acceptance?
Wenham Pines is a private street.
Private road.
Are there any other street acceptance applications for similar
We did one
developments?
a few years ago for the one off of Arbor.
That's a
Settlers
public
Lane.
record, so that's an application that was
Yeah,
submitted, so you
we
can
have-
take a look at that and see what was in there.
That was rather a simple process. The developer supplied everything that we needed, so.
It's usually what happens.
But I can go over it with them.
What was the name of the
Wenham
development?
Pines is
No,
a
it was
private.
Settlers Lane.
Settlers Lane? Yeah, Settlers Lane, it was
It's off of
Peter
Arbor.
Bordeaux.
And
Right?
you have the plans. You can, if you meet, you can pull those and show.
I can, yeah.
But we're still relying on the grace of the select board to reopen the warrant to accept this, correct?
Well, that makes,
Or
Well,
for
the-
the, sel-
the
or for
only-
the select board to move forward with
They
it
can move on if
without
they
our-
want to.
They
Yeah,
can
the-
move forward without our our recommendation.
The only thing supposedly in front of us tonight is whether we're recommending to the select board to put this on the warrant,
Right.
right? So you've got your motion.
My
It was,
proposal.
so
You-
I move that we table the motion.
We need a second.
second.
It's the problem with a four-person board.
Tell me about it.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to table the motion for conditional acceptance. All in favor?
Pascarello, aye.
Weeks, no.
Anderson, aye.
Woodland, no.
So it doesn't
I'm
pass.
sorry, what was that?
Okay,
Was
so
it-
now we go back to your motion.
We're back to the motion for conditional acceptance, and the question is,
We have a five.
I mean, if this fails, it's still up to the select board. They can move ahead with without a motion, without a recommendation to accept from us.
So-
They've
so
asked
that's-
us to talk it through and to take a vote. I think we have the obligation to do that, which is why I don't want to table it.
that's
Okay,
your
so
next step,
if we're going to continue to talk this through, I'm sympathetic to the position that you're in, but what we're being asked tonight is to make a recommendation to the select board to put something on the warrant that has no substance to it right now. It's just basically,
Promise,
yes. that-
which we
Well-
appreciate.
Understood, but we are making a recommendation as a board on behalf of the entire town, okay, not just your particular subdivision. So I'm not comfortable making that recommendation without actually having an application. So I would be a no.
We taking a vote?
Yes.
I'm a risk taker, so I would say yes to do the conditional acceptance and count on the best people coming forward to make that happen. So,
I'm also a yes, but you could figure that since it was my motion, but I'm a yes.
I'm a no.
So we have a split. Tie goes to the select board, I think.
so strategically, I think the next step is you need to lobby the select board to get them to do it. Because we couldn't make it, we said no. Essentially, a tie is a no.
And we're still quite open to getting something to work with in March.
No, February.
February, sorry.
February 13th.
February 13th,
No.
sorry.
It's the 12th.
February, your next meeting is March 13th.
Why not February 13th? Second Thursday
Yeah,
in the
but
month?
Thursday meeting in February. This is
Oh,
not
okay,
February.
okay, yep.
I'll have chocolate
Month
and
ahead.
flowers.
I am so sorry.
We're
I
going to
just
bring
had that
Valentine's
meeting.
gifts.
Done.
I'm already in March.
February.
Yeah,
And
that's
if
okay.
and you know what, if
Yeah.
if it is all in order and it passes the muster, I will absolutely vote to recommend that they reopen it and get the street acceptance.
Margaret, you're going to try and still reach out to the developer, though, and let them know that there might be a solution to the affordable housing. Do they want to go ahead with this?
If you rely respectfully, if you rely on the developer, you will not make the deadline.
I will
Correct.
reach out to them.
That we all agree on that.
Mr. Mackin over here.
But it's,
No, we hear you.
if you can't make it by, what is it, February 13th? If it's going to take you more time to do that, then take that time, get all the ducks in a line, and come back with what you need to come back with. It is a virtual certainty that we are going to have a special town meeting.
That's true.
June.
And you know this town meeting is going to be overwhelming with the super school and everything else. It's if you get tucked on the back end of that, you may not even have quorum. I mean, it's going to be a long town meeting. It's not the worst thing in the world to wait until June at the next town meeting.
Because we don't expect MBTA to be contentious at all.
I was going to say, you don't think
We'll
June's
take
going to be tricky?
We'll have Roger put yours first.
We'll need a soft sell on something.
Okay, I think we need to move on, and I deeply appreciate everyone's participation and continued working together and goodwill on this, because it has not been an easy topic. So,
Tuesday the 4th.
so we need to,
We actually have to open public
Yeah,
hearings, right?
yeah.
She's off on Friday.
he's out on
We're closed
Friday. so-
tomorrow, and they don't work on Mondays. Tuesday? Okay.
Keep trying to find your attorney, find out the right engineer,
Bring somebody with you.
bring him with you.
Hayes Engineers knows how to do this.
Can we, I think we need to move on. We have a public hearing
One step at a time.
on the proposed amendment to amend the Town of Wenham zoning bylaw.
On Tuesday?
Can I just ask you to have your conversation outside the room, please, so we can continue?
Yeah. Yep.
Please have your conversation in the hallway so we can continue and we can get home. I for one, have a plane at 7 in the morning, so.
People too.
To conduct a public hearing, this is a public hearing on Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, on an amendment to the zoning bylaw of the Town of Wenham, to amend the zoning bylaw, including Section 255-43B, accessory apartment. Do you want me to read this in its entirety, or shall we just say that this is the, to fulfill the obligation the town has to allow at least one accessory dwelling unit by right in single-family zoning district. You noticed this hearing.
I did. Yeah, in the
Do you
Salem
want-
News, Thursday, January 16th and Thursday, January 23rd. It was in the newspaper.
Thank you. And I'll open the other hearing when we finish the first one. I'm not going to do them both together, but, so in front of us, we have a copy of the proposed ordinance change, or zoning bylaw change, which basically amends 255-2.2 to remove accessory apartment and replace with accessory dwelling unit or ADU, and it's from the state's definition. And then further down, just a change to the table, and then some requirements that are consistent with the state regulatory requirements or draft, I guess, guidelines. They look like regulations to me, so that's how I'm referring to them. For
Draft regulations.
yeah, draft regulations. So we've all had this copy of basically what it is the redlined section 255.2.2 plus the additional language to fulfill the obligation under the state law. And I'm wondering if there is comment. I have a couple of thoughts about it.
I don't think this is the
That's not
most
the
updated
one
red
that I
line.
printed?
What?
I don't think what we
Backside?
have is the most updated red line.
Oh, I think I printed it. This
Because
is why I have
isn't,
it.
you added the
2 pages?
I added the size.
size, right?
Yeah, I have the updated one, but I printed it at work today. The size is there. It's hard to read because it's pink, but I had a question.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
I don't know how we want to do this, just to go through it section by section.
Can I just clarify one thing?
You can.
So I know this was noticed as a 48-5 hearing, but you're probably gonna need to have another one, because the way the 48-5 process works, and you have time, it's fine, but I'm just throwing it out there, because the way the 48-5 process works is, you have to somebody has to, who's authorized to do this, has to say to the select board, we wanna initiate and propose a zoning bylaw amendment,
Right.
and then they send it back to you. And my understanding is, like, no board or anyone from the town that's authorized to do this has actually said to the select board, like, we want to initiate this amendment, and then have it sent back to you for a hearing. And
Okay.
the reason I raise that is because it's my understanding that this is really the first time you guys are discussing this.
Yes, it is.
And so I do think it makes sense tonight that the ultimate result is that you vote to say, we vote to initiate this as a bylaw amendment and send it to the select board for referral back to us. So you
Okay.
probably will have to have another public hearing. You only have to do it before town meeting, so you have time. But especially for this, like, if you start making a bunch of changes, we're gonna have scope issues. So I think it's important that you guys kind of decide on what you want to present to the select board, and then you'll have another public hearing at some point before town.
Okay, but if we vote tonight to push this to the
Well,
select.
you need to initiate it.
Right, so shouldn't we ask our questions about it?
No, I just wanted to address the process question.
Right,
I'm not saying you
okay.
shouldn't go through it or anything.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to address the process question.
I thought you were saying if there were a lot of changes, then it wouldn't be
No.
appropriate to move it.
No, you should, I think the goal for tonight is to have the
To work
board
through it.
agree, this is what we'd like to see
Right.
the changes be, and then you'll send it to the select board and they'll send it back to you.
Right.
So, because you printed out the other red line, can you just read for us the definition?
I can.
Oh, can we see it on the
Yeah.
screen?
see it?
All right.
I don't have a
Put it on the screen, I can read it and we can put it on the screen.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Well, you don't have to read
I
it.
think you probably could read it yourself
Yeah.
on screen.
I was
But just in
gonna offer,
case-
I have it here.
Can you shrink the?
You just
Let me
shrink us.
that, hold on. Okay.
I also have the redlined regulations if you want those.
Yeah, because they have the
This,
definition.
I think I think it's consistent. Yeah.
We don't need subsection C.
No.
Yeah, no, I had added the little clause too.
Right,
Clean it
so
up a little bit.
it has to say, and is not larger in gross floor area than
than-
half the gross floor area of the principal dwelling or 900 square feet.
Right, which it
Okay.
does.
Yes.
Fine.
Oh,
So,
wait, but is it,
that's state law,
That's
state
the
regulation
state.
definition.
no, I get it, but isn't it, but the state definition is actually whichever is smaller, right?
Whichever is small, yes, whichever
Yes.
is smaller needs to
It's
be in there.
not larger
That's right.
than
But
half.
then,
Oh, it did
so,
say whichever.
Yeah, say whichever is smaller.
So that needs to be
add that.
added.
so we gotta be careful on these, because the state has issued regulations that say that we can have more permissive ADU guidelines than what they have. So if we have anything in here that is more permissive than is in the regulations, it will trump.
Right.
And I'm not so sure that if we said in there it's not larger than 10,000 square feet, that wouldn't be valid because it was more permissive.
So let me speak to that issue for a second. We see that
Whichever
they
is
put in
smaller.
there that you can be more permissive, and that generally is a concept in zoning. But we also don't really see in what areas you could really be more permissive without changing the use. And so I know that they put that in there. We really, I mean,
Without changing the
honestly,
use, is that what you said?
yeah, I mean, I don't think you can be more permissive when it comes to the definition. I think if you apply a different
I
definition.
think we can be more permissive,
No, no,
however.
I think, no, let me say this, in
Yeah.
defense. So I don't think that you can be more permissive as to the definition for what constitutes the type of ADU you have to allow as of right. If you allow something else that's like bigger or
You have the
different,
permit.
then it's a whole different permitting process, but it's not being more permissive under this.
No, that just has to say whichever is smaller, because
Yeah,
that's
no,
what the
no, I
state
agree.
regulates.
No, but I'm saying.
What the
let me-
statute says.
That's what,
No, whichever.
statute or the?
That
The
statute.
statute and the regulation.
Okay, great.
It's the
Can I
same.
ask some English? So if somebody wants to build a unit more than 1,000 square feet, ADU, it's an accessory apartment for their
Yeah, no,
in-law,
I got
because
it.
they're coming down from 5,000 square feet to 1,000.
Yep.
They can apply to the zoning board of appeals or some board in town
Well,
to get
so let me answer your question, because I know where you're going, right? So
in
people
English.
can only do what zoning tells them they can do. I'm giving you the English,
Thank
right? The plain English, not lawyer answer.
But it's 4 against 1, so it's a
I
little
know,
difficult.
so I'm gonna come to
Two,
the good
because
stuff.
Mark.
Thank you.
There you go. So in order to be allowed to use your property in any way, zoning has to authorize it.
Right.
It's either allowed by right, allowed by special permit. So the state has passed legislation, and there are regulations that go with that legislation that say, essentially, your zoning bylaw, regardless of the words in it, can't prevent one ADU that meets that definition from going on every property in a single-family zoning district, period.
Right.
But you also could say, okay, we know everybody gets to have one of those no matter what, but we want to afford people the opportunity to have a bigger one. So you could have a completely different permitting process, completely different definitions, rules, everything that apply to larger units or units that don't meet that definition. So
And there
zoning-
you could ask for a site plan.
that you could ask for site plan here. Yeah, you can ask
Yeah,
for. that you
or
could-
a special
there-
permit or
You could have an
whatever.
owner occupancy requirement
Yeah.
if you want to let people go to 1,500 square feet or something.
But it's
So-
for these that you
yeah,
can't.
So if, though, to your question, if you want people to be able to do anything different than this, it still has to say it in the zoning bylaw. And what Peter was saying, and there's a concept in zoning that says, kind of like the Zoning Act 40A, it sets the floor, it sets the minimums for how you have to treat people. But you're allowed to treat them better, you can be more permissive in certain areas in zoning. The problem with this one, and this whole concept being more permissive, is that I don't think you can be more permissive in a way that changes what the statute is saying you have to allow as of right.
As
So
of right,
the
right.
only thing that I really see in here where you could be more permissive, for example, might be in just saying no one ever has to have parking, right? So the statute says you're allowed to require one parking space for ADUs.
But you don't have.
If you're more than half a mile from a train station or bus stops. So you could say, more permissively, we're never gonna make anybody have a parking space. But I don't think you could be more permissive and say you can go to 1,000 square feet, because if you go to 1,000 square feet, it is no longer this type of ADU. And this is what the state says you have to allow.
So
So,
are
And
we
the critical
drafting for that?
language is whichever is smaller,
Yeah,
which
which should be
doesn't
in
show
there,
up
and that-
here.
that
yeah.
should
Or
be
we
there.
could,
All right,
just
there's
say
a way to-
900 square feet.
No, there's a way to
no,
do
you
that.
have to say whichever is small,
You
Can I
have to
ask
say it's
a quick question?
because that's what the legislation says, and that's what the regulation says.
Who is Peter that you referred to?
I'm sorry, I meant David,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
It's been a very.
No, no, I
talking
thought
about
you were
Peter from
referring to
what?
somebody else.
No,
That's why you were
sorry,
talking about Peter
sorry.
Clay from
I just
previous
had
meeting.
Peter in my head, so I'm just
Okay,
Dave.
so we have, I agree with you, we have to have this definition for ADU, we have to allow it by right. Our existing bylaw right now allows accessory dwelling units by special
Comma.
permit,
Need a comma after.
right? Right, Margaret?
Yes.
The existing allows by special permit, I think, up to 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes,
So-
35% or 1,000 square feet.
All right, so if we want to have ADUs that are larger than 900 square feet, we need to put in a new section that I propose we call special permit ADUs.
You could call them
Right.
larger ADU, whatever you want, just
yeah.
something that
I
makes
like
them
special permit because it
Whatever-
says
yes,
you need
just
to
that
get a
it's
special permit.
clearly distinguished
Okay.
from this.
And that's in addition to this.
Yeah, so keep in mind, everybody then, just so we're clear though, if you put in that second process, everybody is still,
They can still
do
do a
this.
900,
So
Yeah,
you could
right,
have two. So
right.
again,
go up
somebody
to
could have two.
900
Right.
without a special.
So
Yes.
I think first question for us is, do we want to, right now it's up to 1,000 feet, do we want to keep that?
No, 900 square feet.
No, no,
You know what you
no.
want
Our
to cap.
existing bylaw is
Existing bylaw for
is up to
accessory
1,000 square
apartments.
feet. And I know that we've had public commentary about the fairness of smaller houses being limited to, smaller ADUs, and everybody should be able to do the same thing. So if you have a house that is 1,800 square feet or smaller, the largest ADU you can do
Is 900.
is 900, right? So
Yeah.
if you have,
Well, if it's smaller, you can't even get there.
right.
Yes.
So I think the second question is, if we want to allow up to 1,000 square feet, do we want to allow that for even houses that are even smaller than 1,800 square feet, right? We'd have to write that language in.
Yeah, like
Are
you
you
don't have
following
to
me?
have a,
Need to
you don't
write
have
a
to
new
have a
section.
percentage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so what Dan is,
Yeah.
you don't have to have a percentage of gross floor area. You could have what Dan's calling special permit
ADUs.
ADUs, where you say you can go up to 1,000 square feet, and here's the rules that apply to that.
Yeah.
And they may be rules that you can't apply to this, and then a homeowner can decide, do I want to follow those rules and have a bigger
Or
unit?
do I want to just go by right?
Yes.
I don't,
Have to go through the
I
process.
worry about more of what it's going to look like than what the square footage is, right?
Well-
Okay, hold on. So in my view of planning, it's like, if you have an 800 square foot house, 1,800 square foot house, and you're putting 1,000 square foot next to it, that's different than having a 4,200 square foot house, which is not uncommon in this town, and you want to do a 2,000 square footage. Those are the same, right? That's the same ratio of making it bigger.
Can't
You can't go to 2,000.
should go to 2,000
Well, under
by
your
right.
special permit, you can.
But with
I think
special
that's what
permit you
Rick's
can, that's what I'm
talking about.
saying, the special
No,
permit
I don't
part.
think
We're
you
talking
can.
about special
Why not?
permit.
Because what is our existing,
No,
right
you can
now
only
it
go up to
says
1,000
you can
feet.
only go up
That's
to
what it
1,000
says, but we
feet.
can change that.
Well, that's what I mean, yeah.
No, I
We can
know
change
that.
No, but he's saying you could change it.
Oh, okay, well,
So I'm
But
trying
we
to.
don't have to change
don't
it
ha-
tonight.
right.
We
No.
have to decide what we want tonight. and then we have to figure out who's going to draft it. And then we
That's how I
have to.
view
think we-
sizes. I
Don't
view it
we
as in
have to
relationship the
draft
main
this tonight if we're going to send it off to the select board and then they're going to send it back to us?
You could do the as right now, and
You could always add the special permit use
Later.
later.
you could
Yeah.
have
Okay.
the
Put that on in
zoning
June,
amendment
right?
in
You could get the
June.
as of right in place now, and you could,
Yep.
Do the.
Yeah,
they're
okay.
I
gonna
don't
be two,
think-
they may be two different articles anyway, depending, so.
Could you put up the existing,
Yes.
just so we can see what we have? So Rick, were you saying that if it's a 4,000
The
square
size of
foot?
the ADU needs to be a relationship to the main house. To keep the look and feel of the town, right? You don't want to have somebody that has an 1,800 square foot home and then puts an 1,800 square foot ADU. But if you have a 4,000 square foot home, 1,800 square feet isn't that much bigger. You know what I
Depends on
mean?
what size lot you're on.
But those are our different issues, right? You're talking about size, because it'll be a special permit, you'll have to have site plan review.
But are you suggesting we allow
It's true.
ADUs up to 2,100 square feet
I
for
don't know.
4,200?
I want to talk about it, but
Because that's
Do you,
like a principal
do you
residence.
have
That's
to
not-
have, yeah, do you have to have full lot frontage for two?
we'd have to discuss that. But we're talking about the special permit part, not this part, right? That's all I was trying to get at.
Well,
That's
so
how
the-
I look at this stuff. I don't look at it as,
So this is our existing, right here, on
Yeah.
the screen.
Mhm.
Accessory apartment.
That it shall not exceed 35% of the floor area or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less. So we've capped it right now at 1,000 square feet and 2 bedrooms.
well, it would be 35%.
And we have an owner occupied.
It would be a 35% of, right, 1,000 would be the largest, right.
Yep.
But an 1,800 square foot home, it wouldn't be 1,000 square feet.
No.
It'd be 35%
Well, it would be
Or
900.
it'd be
'cause you have
900
right to
because
do
you
it as of
just
right.
use this.
Yeah,
in the new one, yes.
Right.
Right, but the question is, if somebody has
Up to a lot
like a
less.
1,500 square foot home, this is, I'm just paraphrasing the concern that we got, the commentary that we got, right? Is it fair that somebody with a 1,500 square foot home can only build a 750 foot ADU, whereas people with larger homes can go up to 900?
But we don't have a choice on that, I
That's
thought.
the- State law.
No, we can by special permit, we could by special permit allow the 900 feet or more, up to 1,000 if we want to keep what we have now,
If I
for
take
whatever
back all the
threshold we
special-
say.
can I just make one suggestion, and you
Yeah.
guys can ignore me and not take my suggestion, but do you want to get through the draft
Yes.
for the
I
as
was
of
gonna say, can I
first?
remove all
Prefer-
the?
Because that's
Do
something
that.
you do want to get off to the
Yep.
select board,
Yes.
and then we can continue the
Okay.
conversation about an alternative route.
I
But-
agree,
Agreed.
because I have some questions just
Sure.
about the draft. so.
Yeah, and this is pretty pretty streamlined, so I just thought we could get through that, and then.
Yeah. Can,
Can we put that back, is that up now?
It's up there, yep.
yep, and so if you keep, I mean, I think
Next
this is
page, right?
pretty straightforward
Yep.
if you go to the next
Yeah, you
page.
can take my comment out, obviously, but.
So I understand that you took this directly from the regulations, but we are never going to have a ferry terminal in Wenham, so I'm wondering if we could take off
How do you
subway
know?
station and ferry terminal.
Well, you meant,
We can amend the zoning
Yeah,
ordinance
I
when we
mean,
get
look,
to that.
you can take out subway station and ferry terminal.
We do have a lake,
Do, but no
doesn't
ferries
connect
running on
to
it.
any-
connects to Beverly.
Hey,
I would leave in bus
Vote on it.
station.
It's illegal
I would
to
leave in
vote on
bus
it,
station.
so.
well, no, bus station you should leave based on the state's definition.
Well, and also, whenever the commuter rail isn't running, they run buses, and
Yeah,
then
no, leave
nominally
bus
they do
station.
have bus
You can take out
stations.
subway station and ferry terminal. I mean, again, it doesn't matter because you still
just
have to follow the state law.
seems
so-
nonsensical.
Yeah, it's fine. You know, we're just going with the regulations. But,
Yeah.
You can get rid of the comma after station.
We talk about no trailers will be permitted, that, I noticed the regulations have modular homes in the,
I think the point is that you're allowed to limit it to something that's on a foundation and not wheels.
right, I get it. I just wasn't sure if we had to use the state's definition, and there's no
Yeah,
trailer
we-
definition in here.
Yeah, no, we can switch it to that.
So, but there, you're allowing modular dwelling units as opposed to prohibiting trailers, so I don't know how people, maybe it's better just to leave it as it is. But I had that was my question. I is the accessory dwelling unit shall not change the single-family characteristics of the principal dwelling, blah, 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 village-like character. You had made some comment, I think, that you weren't really sure whether we could do
So,
that.
The issue with
And
the
you
s-
took it
there's-
out, yeah.
There's two issues with the state regulations. There's kind of like two parts of it. So, right, so one says that you can't, like, regulate ADUs more severely than other single-family homes, and you can't be
Sorry.
more strict than how you treat other accessory structures, and
Right.
you need objective design guidelines.
Right, and then you've,
Yeah,
so
so-
we've stricken that.
So, I think, I mean, again, you can put in whatever you want, and if the Attorney General will strike it or not, but my feeling is that, based on everything I'm seeing and reading and hearing, and the guidance we're getting, is that it's probably gonna be okay to say, if you have an attached ADU and somebody's doing an addition, they're adding it on, ultimately, that structure should maintain the appearance of a single-family dwelling. That's fine, that's an objective standard.
Right.
What you probably can't get into is requiring that the ADU fit a certain neighborhood character or use certain finishing materials or anything like that, because you don't require that of single-family houses, and you don't require it of other accessory structures. You know, it would be different if you had some kind of
Design review.
design
Except in the
regulation.
historic
Geez,
district.
if
and
Well,
only
that's where
historic's
I'm
different.
going with
So
somebody
you're allowed
had
to have-
approved some design
So you're
guidelines
allowed
to be
have,
developed.
more restrictive requirements
In
if
the
they're in the
historic
historic district, and those can either go in the zoning bylaw or the HCC can adopt them separately.
Well, and that's where I was going with this question is, I didn't see that, I saw it in the
My
red line, but I
understanding was
didn't
that
see it here.
HDC was doing it separately.
Well, I wanted to ask Margaret, did you speak to them?
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
what did they say?
They're going to discuss it, or I think they did discuss it last night. They want to adopt some guidelines for it, or utilize the guidelines they have for design within the historic district.
And we
So
don't
I
need to include that.
So the regulations say it can go in a general bylaw or the zoning bylaw.
Yep.
And so if you were ready to put them in here, you certainly could.
But we want their input, I think.
I think the HDC, can they create different guidelines for ADUs in the
So
historic district?
Yeah, the regulations have more leeway for what you can regulate in historic district for ADUs.
Okay,
So
that's
we'd have to look at it we'd have to look and just see whether or not it needs to be a regulation or a bylaw that needs to go to town meeting, like they may
It
have to.
just says design standards and dimensional
No, no.
standards.
Oh, no, I get that, and it says it
Yeah.
can be bylaw, ordinance, or regulation. I meant from your local perspective.
Oh, I see.
Like, what, is it proper to go in the HDC bylaw that town meeting approves, or is it something they already have the leeway to do by regulations, is not a question I've been asked, but, you know, we can look at that when they're ready to adopt something. There's no question that the EOHLC regulations refer to zoning or general bylaw or regulations.
Right.
So, can go, like, if you were ready to put them in here, sure, but you don't have to, and you don't
Have
lose your,
them.
you know, it may just be that they come later.
I mean, master plan speaks to the adoption of design guidelines
Yeah.
in the town, and I don't think it was, and I don't know that they were necessarily mandatory, but I also don't know that they were limited to the HDC or the historic district. So I'm wondering if we want to kind of have some type of self-executing provision in here that says, you know, design guidelines or design standards applicable to all structures in the town, or with respect to the historic district, as specifically applicable to the historic structures in the historic district. And if they don't exist, then there's nothing we can do about
Right.
it, but it just allows
In other
for,
words, a
because I'm hopeful
cross-reference.
within the next 12 months.
Can we have design standards?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can put in here that an ADU in a historic district has to comply with any historic district bylaws or regulations, but that's more of like a heads up, they would anyway.
Well, I think we
Yeah.
should, though.
No, you certainly can, but
So let's
it's
put it
not.
in.
That way it's not confusing
No,
to
then it's
someone coming in
noticed to
trying to do
people,
it.
and that's,
Yeah.
it doesn't,
Okay, so let's add that as L.
yeah, I mean, you can
There you go.
certainly.
Or you actually took out.
But not just HDC.
Oh, I guess you've
You
renumbered.
can't
got
have,
the
so you can
utilities
only
thing.
have,
Can't create something special for it.
No, I understand that, but in the eventuality, which I hope becomes a reality, that we have design guidelines or design standards town-wide.
well, those would need to,
Single-family
well,
homes?
one, just to clarify though, if you want something to be binding through zoning, it has to be in the zoning bylaw. So you can't, I mean, you can have like design guidelines you hope people adhere to, but you can't bind them if they're not in the bylaw. And as the ADUs themselves, the only way that you can, first of all, they would have to be objective, whatever that it means when it comes to this, but I guess clearly defined and what, not mushy. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm trying to stay away from the lawyer words. But the only way that you can apply them to ADUs is if you apply them to everything. So, for example, if you had amended your zoning bylaw and you said that every accessory, and I'm not recommending you do this, it's just an example, but say you amend your zoning bylaw and you say every accessory structure has to match the finishes of the principal dwelling, then you could apply it to ADUs. But like,
But it would have to be the entire ordinance that.
but you don't
yeah.
do that. You don't
But we don't
require
right
that
now.
if someone puts a garage or a shed in or what have you,
They
that it
match.
matches their house. And there may be reasons for that. I mean, materials,
We may
expense,
wanna add
cost,
that,
I don't know. But,
but we don't right now.
you know,
We matched.
there is a, you know, those are just what the regulations say about ADUs and what you can do.
What about environmental regulations? Is that assumed that they
Like an environmental
apply?
What do you
Title
mean? by that?
V,
Stormwater and.
Yeah.
all that stuff?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
those
yeah.
apply equally to everything, right?
Yeah, you
So
can't-
septic, conservation, like things like that are all.
So
gonna
it doesn't
apply.
matter that we don't specify that they have to
No,
comply
because
within
those
this?
apply to all development generally.
And setbacks and all that stuff, we don't
How
have to
else
worry
are you
about that.
So this provides in here that basically the normal setbacks that you would apply to a single-family house apply here. That's another area where you could be more generous, right? So you could say, normally, say a single-family house has to be 20 feet, like off the side lot, but we'll let an ADU be 10. Like, you could be more generous in that way. That's an example of somewhere you could be more permissive, more generous. You can't be less, though. So you can't say.
Right, you can't impose more restrictions on it.
Yeah, you can't say the ADU has to be 50 feet off if the house only has to be 20 feet off.
Same with 3A, that's what we went through with 3A.
And if I'm thinking about this, if I'm putting an ADU on my lot, I don't have to have frontage for both the ADU and the house. I have to have a conforming lot. And even then, in the regulations, there's something here about non-conforming structures, but then in the language, it talks about or lots. So
Yeah.
even on a non-conforming lot, this is, you can build an ADU as of right?
Well,
do you think?
personally, I still think that you can include in here that folks will need to get a finding if they're adding structure to a non-conforming lot.
Yeah,
And
and you
And so
don't have
is
that in here
No,
now?
we do.
Where is
We
it?
say, section 255, 4-4C.
Oh, shall apply to an ADU. It's
And we
just
just clarify that
it's the
it's a
cross-reference.
straight finding, it's not a special permit.
Right,
So it'd be like a 3/5 vote.
Yeah. okay.
So the only thing I'll say
Conforming-
about that is we think you should be able to require it. We don't think the regulations can change what 48.6 says about nonconformities. We do recognize the comments in the regulations about nonconformities or about
Yeah.
like, minimum lot areas. What I think is clear is to your question, what you can't say is our normal minimum lot area is 40,000 square feet, but if you want to add an ADU, you need 50 or 60 or
Yeah,
more
you can't
frontage.
do
And-
that.
And that I think is.
And what
clear.
about the 20,000 square foot lots like downtown? That's a conforming lot when the house was built, correct?
Well, so that's where,
Non-conforming
so
now.
to the extent something is non-conforming now, so to the extent you have an existing non-conforming single or two-family lot now, and somebody wants to add structure, in most cases, they need what we call a finding, right, that it's not more detrimental, because they're intensifying a
But
non-conformity.
they can do it, they just have to go through a process to
Yes,
get there.
and then the question, and then the question's gonna come up about whether and how much discretion a board really has to say no there. It may be more that it's discretion to make them move something or what have you. And we may have some litigation about how far these regulations can go in limiting those decisions. But even in the Dover context, I mean, there's like a Boston College case in, I think, 2003 that they were denied a finding, and the court didn't say you can't make them get a finding, or whereas we can't make Dover uses get variances.
Right.
It seems like findings are in play, and if they are for that, I don't see why they wouldn't ultimately be for this, but we may have some test cases, hopefully not, in the town of Wenham.
Right, there you are.
Right.
So could we just add the historic district guidelines to, I think, put it in G, because G, you've gotten rid of G, just stick
Yeah.
it in there instead of,
So here instead of this?
Yeah, and we had talked about that before.
Yeah.
We can add a reference, just that they have to comply with any, if it's
Any.
a historic district, they have to
All right.
comply with whatever the
get that
historic
on.
district requires.
may establish design standards and dimensional, it looks like they have to be specific to protected use ADUs, so I don't know if that means they have to do something new.
Well, I mean, I think anything that they have generally, they should be able to apply to the use. I mean, if it got to a point where it's completely prohibitive, it might be an issue. But I think what this is saying is they are allowed to say for ADUs, X, Y, Z. And it can be
Right.
more restrictive than what zoning generally would allow for a non-historic district property.
Right, so I think we should add that question.
Yep.
And those are the comments I had on it. Anybody else have anything they want to?
Like I said, this is pretty basic in and of itself.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
So if this is adopted at town meeting, then our current special permit bylaw goes away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're okay with that?
For accessory
for the-
uses,
Yeah, so the accessory apartment bylaw goes
Accessory
away.
apartments.
So no one has an
Unless-
opportunity to come in for a special permit once
Unless
this
we-
goes into effect, unless we adopt a separate special permit.
I think that's what I'm understanding, yes.
That's how this is written now.
Yeah,
I mean, we
that's how
can
this is written.
draft something else, but we're not gonna, I think, do that tonight.
I think it's a good thing to start a conversation about if you have time while you're all here, but I don't know that you're gonna draft it tonight, or, you know, looking at what you have now, how easily it would be to just make some adjustments to what you have to accommodate that. I don't know that, again, that you'll get through it all tonight. I mean, you know, it sounds like you have some
So-
policy questions to work through.
I suggest we take 5 minutes and just talk about, do we want, what's the maximum, we want special permit ADUs? If we do, what's the maximum size that we want? Do we want to allow smaller residences than 1,800 square feet to go up to, it doesn't have to be 1,000, it could be 900, I mean, we could set whatever number we want. So, I mean,
People have
how
strong
do we feel
opinions about
about,
this.
do we want special permit ADUs?
So I think the first question, just to help, is are you comfortable with an avenue where a property can have more than one ADU?
No,
No.
not at this time.
So if that's the answer, you're not gonna have special permit ones because
Yes, no.
everyone's always entitled to the as of right.
Right, but if we allow up to 1,000 square feet by special permit, they would
For
come
one,
and ask.
for a single
Yeah, but
ADU.
they still
They
can
could
have the
still,
other one.
they could have the other
Of
one,
course,
too.
but they
So-
might want 1,000
that's
instead of
two.
900.
Yeah, but
No,
so
it's-
my question was, are you comfortable with an avenue where people can have more than one, and you all said no?
Right.
And if you create a special permit process, you will have an avenue where people can have two.
No, you
ADUs.
just make clear that it's one or the other.
You can't.
Well, then why can't we? Why can't we
Because
say,
Because,
Because it's a
because
right.
just listen, everyone is entitled to the
Right.
protected one. And if you create the special permit one, you are saying that that is a use that, as long as it's
Separate.
appropriate on that lot, is something that is available. And in my opinion, you will not be able to deny those special permits on the basis that people already have the protected one. You'll be creating an avenue where folks can have two.
I don't think that's right, because in this
don't wanna risk it.
bylaw, or whatever we're adopting right now, it says that you cannot have more than one ADU on your lot.
You cannot
As
have
of
more
right.
than one as of right protected ADU on your lot. And what I'm saying is, so let me give you a scenario. If
Hold on,
somebody-
that's not what that says. Go back
It does,
up.
because it's following the definition of ADU, and the ADU is the definition. That applies to ADU as defined. There should not be more than one ADU per lot,
ADU is the small one.
because ADU is
You'd be calling
that.
it something else. You could have an ADU and an accessory
You
apartment.
can't have more than one of that. What I'm saying is, so this is the issue that I don't know how you can enforce against. And you guys can just talk about it, but I wanna be clear about it before you go down the whole road. If somebody comes in and gets a special permit for, say, the special permit ADU.
Right.
Right? And then they're like, I want all of my in-laws to live here. So one set is in the bigger one, then they come in and they say.
You don't think we
"I
can draft
want-"
around that?
Compound.
I mean,
Well-
you could say that the special permit ADU is not available if there is an ADU on the property.
But once you have the
But
special
once you have
permit,
it, you can't stop somebody from
Hypothetical.
doing the allowed one unless you're going to try to say, well, you have to give up the other one. And now they have a built thing, like, are they gonna put up a wall? So all I'm saying is, eyes wide open, if somebody gets the special permit one first, understand they will be allowed to do the other one, and it may be very difficult to get rid of the special permit one.
What do the regulations say?
The
about-
regulations have nothing to do with having a second one. The regulations say that everybody gets one as of right per lot and may have more by special permit. And there's no question
Okay,
that outside
fine,
of that
then-
definition, you can also,
So our hands are tied then?
all I'm saying is,
unless the accessory apartment is in an existing dwelling, as opposed to a newly built separate thing. So in other words, I have a house. I get my ADU.
The hours of right, yep.
Right. And I want to cut my house, not cut it in half, but I want to make an in-law apartment downstairs, totally separate entrance,
Sure.
everything. That's in effect an accessory dwelling unit, right?
Yes.
So, and I could have, if in this theory, I could get a special permit for that.
Then you'd have two.
That's, okay, so that wasn't how I was defining this.
You're defining it as a separate structure.
Look, the intent of this law is to create more ADUs, right? And this is the floor. We are required to provide this.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
So I can't imagine that the framers of this statute or regulations were trying to discourage towns from saying, well, we're going to let you actually go up to 1,000 if you come get a special permit from us, right? But
whatever
you'd
they were
still have to
intending.
you'd still be
I mean,
allowed
look,
an
no,
extra one.
I get it, but what Robin is mapping out, I don't think we want multiple ADUs on lots.
Right, that's why I'm saying the only thing we would want is, and like an accessory apartment in an existing structure, you could,
I
guess
don't
you
even
could
think
say-
we want
you don't
that.
even need a zoning ordinance.
Yes, you do,
Yeah,
because
you
it's
do.
not an
do.
authorized use of the property.
I guess we do, yeah.
I
But-
mean, you could probably say we will allow by special permit a larger attached.
No, listen, the legislature made a choice on this and the EOHLC, just like 3A. And in theory, there are 1,200 housing units in the town of Wenham. We could have 2,400 housing units in the town of Wenham by right. I'd like to see how this plays out before we start thinking about multiple additional units on lots. We could not only have another 1,200, we could have another 1,565 housing units in this town. Like,
Again,
I think it's
water and
1,460.
sewer limited, so
what's
Well,
that?
that is true. I mean, there's utility limited.
you
in
still
that.
have to have
understand-
the water and sewer.
I understand. I'm just saying, like, let's see how this goes, and if this is, if the need develops, then I could see us coming back and
I
considering
was
this.
just trying to address the concerns that were presented to us that, it may not be fair to limit to just half the gross floor area if you're under 1,800 square feet.
It's a
say.
legitimate
I mean,
concern, but the policy's been set.
The
so-
solution that I thought would address this is now opening the door to multiple ADUs on a lot, which is something that I don't think we want under any circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, I mean, realistically, I guess you could put in a special permit decision that, this special permit, is for an ADU and it can be the only one you have, which wouldn't actually prohibit the as of right. It's like if somebody wanted to build an as of right, they'd have to give that other permit up. I just don't know how you enforce that. Like, I
How do
don't
you
know
figure, yeah, that doesn't
manage that.
seem like enforceable.
Well, if, the only way it would play out is if you got a special permit ADU first.
Yes. And I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know what the demand for that is.
Well, if you got a special permit ADU first, you're saying you can't build into that you cannot put another ADU on the
You
property.
can't build into that the protected one you can't have.
No, because.
You may be able to say, as a condition to the special
Makes it
permit,
protected.
like, it'll be the only ADU on the property, meaning if somebody says, well, I want my as-of-right one, technically they have to surrender that one. I just don't know how you manage that. I don't know how you
What
enforce
do they tear it
that.
down?
That's what I mean, like, from a practical standpoint. But
Well, I mean,
what
that's
wanted-
obviously somebody who's gaming the system, right?
What I
But-
just wanted to make sure.
I know it would happen, I
Having just
get
sat
it,
through
but-
this conversation about that developer, we don't think that someone would game this.
No, I get it.
I just wanted you folks to understand that you couldn't prohibit the as-of-right ones just because someone got a special permit. I guess that's all I'm trying to say, is that
Two addresses.
having a special permit process is a potential for more than one on a property. Because if somebody already has an as-of-right one, I don't think you can just say, well, we're not gonna give you the special permit
Okay.
for a second one.
So then, I don't have anything further
Margaret
on
has a
this tonight.
I do have a question.
Yep.
So currently, there are a number of accessory apartments in town on many properties. Can they come in now and get a by right, another ADU?
Well, so if they already qualify, that would be it, right? I mean, if somebody already has one that meets this definition, they already have one.
Well, they have one by special permit. They've gotten
Well,
them by
but,
special
but
permit.
I'm saying physically, like if somebody has one that actually is 900 square feet or what have
Or
you.
less.
It literally you'll be like, oh, you already have it. Like if they have one that meets the
You
definition.
don't get another one
They don't get
by
another one.
right
Now,
if
if
you already
somebody
have one.
has one under an old special permit,
Yeah.
and it doesn't meet this definition, they will be entitled to have
So
one
they have
by
one
right.
that's
It's a bigger one.
1,200
Yeah,
square feet,
so they're
which we
still
do
gonna,
have.
they're gonna be entitled.
To
I
another
don't,
Well, that's a problem.
I don't think
There's
so.
nothing to do with it. Well,
Well,
everybody's entitled to one of these, no matter what else, as long as it is
I just.
less than 900 square
no,
feet.
as long as the lot has a principal dwelling and is in a single-family neighborhood, which is a neighborhood where single family is allowed by right or by special permit,
I get it,
They
but you're,
get to
the
add-
regulation for this says 1 ADU per lot.
one of those.
Yeah, but I think it's an oversight
I-
to say that it, just this kind, if there's already an ADU,
Honestly,
you get to put another one of these
take it
on
up
so
with
that
the
you get
legislature.
two, when it clearly says that one per lot.
All I'll say is, if a
I
building.
see the risk, I get it, I just,
All I'll say is, EOHLC has been very clear that the legislation and the regulations apply to this, and you are free to do whatever you want outside of that, and I don't see how you can sometimes have it apply to this and sometimes not.
I mean, part of the regulation is it says one per lot, right?
One of those.
I get it, one of those, but everybody, they're just tweaking the ADU definition, right?
It's meaningful though, because you're allowed to
But-
tweak the ADU definition to have a completely different permitting scheme.
Because you would call it an
That isn't subject
accessory
to any of
apartment.
this, because it's not that.
Because you'd call it an accessory apartment.
Yeah,
or
or I have some
whatever,
communities that
or
are calling
a
it,
banana.
large-scale ADUs, or whatever, yeah, special permit, whatever you wanna call it, but,
Sure.
But
being
the risk
within
is,
the definition or not is the determining factor for.
Okay, but I mean, I think a building inspector, if there's already an ADU on a lot and somebody comes in and says, I get to do this by right, I mean, I think there's a pretty good case to say, no, you don't, because you already have an ADU.
and then you get sued and you.
Then you get sued and it gets worked out in the courts, but I think it's a
Well, if they-
justifiable position to take.
Well, I guess we'll have to see if that happens,
Okay.
but, to Margaret's question, if the ADU somebody already has happens to meet this definition, then I think the answer is you already have your one.
But if their ADU is 1,000 square feet,
Then they get,
Then they
in
get
my
another one.
opinion,
They
they
get
get
another
one.
They
of
get
these.
another one.
No way. There's
I didn't
no
write
way.
I
That's
didn't write
what
the
it's-
law, I
No,
just read it.
you're
what
saying
it
that if they
says.
already have more than 900 square feet, they get another one because they have more than 900 square feet?
Because you can't
There's no
prohibit
way.
That's what it says.
We have the
That's
same
what
kind
it
of stuff
says
with
in the
3A.
law.
Didn't we already go
But
through
you
this?
have more
stuff?
than what the by right is providing to you. So how could you get another
You have
one on the
different.
lot?
You have different.
different.
Okay, that's an
Are we good?
interesting interpretation.
I think we need to,
But let's move on.
I think we need a motion to accept this as we've tweaked it.
Although, I think you have someone who came
Oh.
to speak.
Oh.
Did you come to speak? Oh, I'm sorry. Please have the podium. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Peter Walczyk, common spelling.
It's the Peter I thought you were referring to
Sorry.
earlier.
I know, I misspoke.
Oh.
I think I just had Peter in mind because I didn't know he had designed
Peter
it.
Clay.
Till I
That's
got
it,
here,
there you
yes.
go, recovering.
Sorry to
No
interrupt.
worries. 112,
Apologies,
112 Maple Street. I did have a direct conversation with Governor Healy about this that might answer a couple of your questions.
Okay.
If only she were here to.
Is
Yeah,
there
I know.
legislation already? Sorry.
But I appreciate the work you do. I know you're in the trenches taking grenades. But as we review, as we reconcile our bylaws to the state's
Rules.
the Affordable Housing Act, I just want to ask that we please ensure that our bylaws are equitable under the law, which I don't believe they are right now. When I spoke to Governor Healy about this, she said I had a valid point, but I could work directly with my town officials because that's the minimum. And you're allowed to go bigger than this by a special permitting process, that the town can set a zoning bylaw that allows you to go bigger than this. This is the floor, she said.
She needs to read the law.
But it's the floor. You can go bigger. It's
Yeah.
By a special permit,
I don't
but then you can also get another one.
Yes.
So, you
So,
didn't ask her that question,
what's that?
whether you automatically get another one if you have
Yeah,
one that's
that-
bigger.
But I agree with Mr. Pasquarello that it would be inconceivable that if you already have one, you should be able to build another one. But anyway, so as you know, our current bylaws stay 35% of the finished square foot or 1,000 square feet, whichever is smaller, and the state's is 50% up to 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. But I argued, and I'm encouraged that you read my letter, that as it's written now, it codifies a structural inequality in our laws, and it allows it creates an unfair advantage for people with larger homes to build a larger ADU, and it actually disadvantages people who have, by choice, moral choice, by means, by luck, have a smaller home. And so a couple of things. One, drawing from my 10 years as a contractor, I can say that to upscale from, like for instance, my home when we purchased it was 936 square feet, which means by this, I could only build up to 470 square feet of.
Tiny house.
It's a tiny, and at that point, the return on investment's not worth it because the rent is so low for a small little structure like that. But to upscale from 470 square feet to 1,000 square feet is not that much more money, but the rent is exponentially higher, if that makes sense. So if you're in a smaller home and restricted to a smaller ADU, you can't build wealth as faster than someone with a larger home.
But the ADU then is larger than the house.
Well, I know that's been posited that it's a question of proportionality, but I argue in many farm towns like ours, the farmhouse is much smaller than the barn, and we don't think that's out of proportion. We think that looks normal. And so I'll be applying for a permit once we figure all this out, but what we're trying to do at our home is we've increased the size of our home, but we have plenty of room out back. We're trying to build a barn that looks like it's been there for 100 years, that's been retrofitted to be an apartment. Because in our neighborhood, when you walk in, you see it used to be as on Maple Street, as you drive in from Danvers, that was all a farm up until 1960. The original farmhouse is across the street, the carriage house is across the street, and our barn would look perfectly in place, so when you drive into town, it would look like you're entered farm country. So that's one of the questions. Ms. Robin said that you could restrict people to make the same type of material for the accessory dwelling unit to look like the house, but I would argue against that because if you wanted to make it look like a barn, it wouldn't make sense to make it look like another cape with the same kind of finishing.
Right.
So anyway, that was a separate argument. But
Clarify the point. I said you can't do that.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah.
We're not allowed to.
You're right. So to be equitable, I believe people who have a smaller home should build up to, and I argue that it should be bigger than 900 square feet. It actually should be larger. It should be up to 1,000 square feet, our current allowable. So a larger ADU would allow smaller homes to build wealth faster than the folks with the large home. So it's really, to me, it's a question of equity under the law. You could even point to the 14th Amendment that we can't write laws that disadvantage one person over another. And so right now, the way the state law is even written, and Governor Healy actually agreed with my point. She said, my point is valid, but I need to work with my town officials to go larger than the 900 square foot, because that's permissible under the law, she said, to go larger than the 900 square feet. That's just the minimum. So to me, it's creating a structural inequality under the law that advantages people with larger homes over people with smaller homes. So it shouldn't be unfairly tied to finished square footage. It should be more tied to the lot size and setback regulations, et cetera. Because to tie it to square footage just disadvantages some people under the law.
Hear you. And you really think there's no way of saying,
I don't think you can prevent the as-of-right ADU. I think you would have to regulate it through the special permit.
Is this something we could get clarification from EOHLC on?
We can try to ask
Or
for
the AG or
clarification,
somebody?
but It says what it says. Everybody gets one as-of-right. And any more than one, you can protect it, we need a special permit. You can also you certainly are allowed to have some other kind of ADU by special permit, but nothing else you do negates the fact that everyone gets one
One of
as-of-right.
Well, why can't we put into we're amending the bylaw, right? So why can't we just put in a provision in our bylaw that says there can be no more than one accessory dwelling unit,
Per lot.
Because,
either by right or by special permit on a lot?
because everybody gets one.
Yeah, well, they would
Maybe-
still get
So
one.
they still
So
get
then you-
one.
So then, but if you've already, what I'm saying is, if you've already permitted a special permit one, and someone comes in and says, I want the as-of-right ADU, I don't think you can stop them. You would have to regulate it through the permitted special permit one, so you're going to be in situations, potentially, and I don't even know how many.
So,
Yeah.
even if we have said explicitly, you can only have one,
But you
but
you
you've
can't say
gotten
that.
one, you can't say that.
You-
We have a
That's what you're
special
saying.
permit, and
Everybody gets one of these. No matter what, no matter what else they have, no matter what else you've authorized, everybody gets one of these. So if they already have some different use, a
Right.
different special permit, I think you would,
What do you mean by different use?
if you create a
Accessory
a
apartment.
different accessory,
It's not a different use.
it
It's
is a different use.
It's an accessory dwelling unit.
No, this is an accessory dwelling unit, and that is a defined
But the-
use. If you create large.
That's not a defined use.
It
The-
is
the-
in the
Look at
statute.
It is, and it's on your use table, accessory dwelling unit. If you have another thing, you have to amend the use table to say large-scale accessory dwelling unit or special permit accessory dwelling unit, and it's a different type of use.
So you get both.
So the only way that I could see to regulate it, and I'm just flagging that I think that it would be challenging from an enforcement perspective, would be have some kind of safeguard on the special permit side. I don't think you can restrict the as-of-right side.
Okay,
Now, I don't
but
know how many people would want
can-
that, right?
Which
Because-
is a-
can I
maybe
just
a
ask,
bad
isn't
policy
the
choice that the
use
state has made,
accessory
but-
dwelling?
No, the use is a self-contained housing unit inclusive of sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities, et cetera, check it. That is the use.
Right, so if you created some other special permit large thing.
It's gonna have a different
It's gonna
definition.
have a different definition.
And it's a different
Well,
It's a different
we
use.
call it accessory dwelling unit by special permit.
Yeah, but it's still
the-
a different
It
thing.
needs a different definition, though, where you can't
It
require.
needs a different definition.
It
I
needs a
just
different use
don't
there.
agree that it's a different
understand.
Okay,
use.
we need to move on.
Getting any further tonight?
No,
Is that
we need to
discussion
move
getting
on.
any further?
Well,
I understand
We're
can
not
we
going
let
to. We need
Mr.
to move on.
well, we made Mr. Waltz sit here for 2 hours.
We're really
before he was at
listening
the
to
podium.
what
So
he has
let's-
to say
let's
and trying
let
to
him
figure out
finish.
if we can do anything about it. Keep going.
I would argue that I think you could say that you're applying for a permit under the current ADU law, and we are exceeding that number by square footage. I think you could, I agree with you is what you're saying, that there should be a special permitting process to go above that. Because, for instance, our 936 square foot home, it's bigger now, but when we bought it, it was 936 square feet Cape. This says I can only go to 50% of that. That's going to dissuade people from building. I think the way the law is written now, it actually dissuades investment and dissuades people from building because it costs not much more to build a 1,000 square foot one, but the rent is so much lower. You know, the rents would be more than triple between a 500 square foot and a 1,000 square foot, believe it or not. From a one-bedroom studio to a two-bedroom, two-bathroom, the rents jump up exponentially.
Totally
So-
hear that.
Yeah, so I would argue that we have to have a special permitting process because even the governor told me, this is the floor, we're allowed to go more than that. And so I would argue we need a special permitting process. It would help, it would help solve our housing crisis as well as increase revenue for the town because people could build bigger, you'd get more revenue from the property taxes on that.
I don't want to cut you
And it allowed people to
off,
pay their
but
property taxes.
But we're looking at 9:05, and I
Yeah.
think we hear what you're
I'm done.
saying,
Yeah.
and I think we deeply appreciate what you're saying. I think we're hearing from town council that there may not be much we can do about it.
So this
It's
all
also
said, that
kind
I'll
of-
be happy to.
Mr.
Oh, go ahead.
Also, I hear about rentals and a two-family house versus ADU. So I think of ADUs, yes, it can be a rental.
Or an
But the
in-law
first thing
apartment.
that comes to mind is grandma or mom and dad want to move to the smaller place so the kids can have the big house. That is wealth generation and continuing wealth generation. So I look at it, I don't have a problem with it being small because people will then start using it as, I got a two-family house, as opposed to an ADU, a house with an ADU. That's where I see the difference, and that's why I like the 900 square foot thing, and if we could work out eventually a way to make them larger, that would be great. But I want to keep them small because my idea of the use of them as a member here is for mom and dad to downsize to, or for, kid to move back from home with their family that's starting, or, somebody non-related to them that just needs a small place to stay. But making it an income generator, then makes it a two-family to me, and that's a difference.
But the law says not 900 square feet. It says 50% or 900,
to
whichever
exceed.
is smaller.
Correct.
So if you have a small house, now you're going to end up with a small apartment, and the cost of building it is prohibitive. You're
But
not
I
gonna get a
understand that. I think the
return on
legislation
investment.
was trying not to make two families by right, but these kind of smaller apartments where older people could move into or younger people could start off in. That's the difference in my head between going to 1,000, 1,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a two-family house.
The goal of the legislation was to help solve the housing crisis. And
one of the big things with the housing crisis is that right now, one of the big things with housing crisis is that people my age and my generation cannot afford to downsize. So by building this ADU thing, as I understand it, was geared to my generation in particular to start downsizing so they could get their family in, so they could now have two people living in the same house where they only had one. So difference of opinion of how you look at it.
Okay.
Can I just, in closing, I'm
Yes.
happy to try to get some follow-up on this issue, and I will
Thank
let
you.
you know what I find. And I just think, the only thing I'd say on that is, I just think you, as a board and as a town, have to decide that if you really think it's necessary to have a larger option, is it worth the risk that you may get a few that have two? If that's the answer, to be able to afford people that option, because how many people are really gonna do it? And so that's just a question for you folks to think about, do we, even if you know that it might happen on occasion, is it still worth to give people the option? That's a question. So, but I'll be happy to try to get some more guidance, and I will report back on what I find.
That would sacrifice
Meanwhile-
the good for the perfect.
Well, meanwhile, we need to move this forward because it's got to be in place. So I think, thank you for your comments. They were super
Can I
helpful.
just add one thing before we move this forward, which, if this interpretation is correct, I think that we ought to be prepared if there's an ADU out there right now by special permit that, let's say, is 800 square feet, and somebody comes in and says, I can by right build a 900 square feet. Well, building inspector, whatever, our building department, I see Mr. Timon's still there, our select board should be aware of that potential for people coming in and claiming they can have two ADUs on one lot by right.
Well, if they have
Where-
an 800, they qualify.
It would be under this.
They've already got one.
They already got
Well,
theirs.
Then they already have,
It's only
okay,
if
well,
it's
whatever,
bigger.
we'll make the math work out, so.
Well, I don't want to belabor, I will try to get some more guidance for you, but the way that we've been reading this is everyone gets one as of right. So no matter what else you do, everyone gets one as of right. But I'll be happy to try to get some more
Okay.
guidance on that issue.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the floor? Do we have a motion to move this forward?
You started to make one, but I honestly don't remember.
I don't
Jeez,
think
what are we
do.
doing? We're proposing this to the select board.
I think the motion would be to initiate this as a bylaw amendment by submitting it to the select board.
Correct.
Okay,
As
I
amended.
move that we,
But you were talking about adding a special permitting process.
We are, but not, I
Not
don't
tonight.
think.
we're
we
gonna have to
haven't
come
written
back
it. We're
to
gonna
that
have to
after
come
we
back to
get
that
more guidance from
council,
council, and hopefully from
the EEO.
AG, EOHLC, the governor, whoever wants to chime in on this.
And if you've got a number for her, tell her,
yeah.
give me a call.
Yeah, we all want to talk to her.
So I move that we initiate this proposed accessory dwelling unit
As amended?
as amended, as a zoning bylaw amendment to be recommended to the select board.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Weeks
Aye.
says aye.
Anderson, aye.
Woodland, aye.
Okay, that is moved.
All right. Do you need me for anything else?
No.
All right.
Yeah, can you go through in detail the floodplain overlay district?
Actually, the state doesn't let me. No, that's on them.
Oh, yeah?
The state has a model. We don't mess with that.
Yep.
So do
There
we
are
even
two
need to
of them,
debate this?
actually.
Can
There
we-
were a couple little comments.
Oh, you have to
of things
open your-
clarify, but anyhow, I will see you all later. I will try to get some confirmation.
Thank you.
All right, safe travels.
Thank you for sticking through.
Of course, that's what we're here for. Anytime.
Yeah.
Sorry for any stupid questions that may have been
Never are.
asked.
I'll see you guys later. Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks, Margaret.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Do we have to do this as 2 public hearings?
It's two
No,
separate.
they're not two separate public
It's
hearings.
the same.
Just
public
one.
hearing for, yep.
Yeah, so let me open it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Walczyk.
Peter.
Appreciate it. Now we're going to open, we never
It's
closed
already
the
open.
other public hearing.
It's 1 public hearing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's one public hearing, it's still open.
oh, because it's all zoning bylaws.
So we're
Okay.
gonna go to the,
How I'm used to thinking about it.
this is your agenda. What's
So
the next
now,
one, the
zoning
stormwater?
bylaw 255, 12.2 floodplain overlay district.
Is this
The
something that we're
other-
moving on to
Which is not the thing I have in front of me. The thing I have in front of me are the bylaws, not the zoning district. I probably have it in my
But you have the
packet.
floodplain zoning district bylaw.
In
That's
my
what it is.
packet.
It's should
It's
be the
called-
second,
Floodplain overlay district.
yep, floodplain
Yep.
overlay district.
Can you put it up on the,
I mean, there's,
Just bring it
is
up.
there any, we can't, there's nothing we can do on these, right?
right, we just
Um,
have to,
No, not really. Kate worked with the,
no, not really.
the state. Really. Kate worked with the state and found the correct language. We need to simply include the dates that we'll get from the state. We don't have those effective dates yet. We'll be getting those from the state.
We don't have the maps yet, do we?
No. We have some draft maps. They weren't excited about sharing them with us, but they're on our website.
Okay.
All right, so we don't have a choice. We have to do this, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
pretty
so
much.
I move
Pretty
that
much.
we recommend to the select board as a zoning bylaw amendment, the floodplain overlay district
Perfect.
proposal as amended.
Second.
Let's go. Anderson,
Alan?
aye.
Pascarello, aye.
Weeks, aye.
Woodland Eye?
If we can't change it, and, so, can you explain, please, the bylaws, these other bylaws
Yes,
that we have
I
in our
can.
packet? Because,
And it
just
wasn't
so I
easy.
understand.
Oh,
how
wait.
they
Did
Have
relate.
you
need
closed the
to-
meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so this hearing,
Well, we're gonna, close the hearing.
vote to close the hearing on the zoning.
Move to
Um,
close the hearing.
Yeah, so
Aye.
Second,
A
all in
second.
favor,
At 9:11.
at 9:11.
Aye.
Thank you.
as Robin had mentioned,
Aye.
No, we
Oh.
closed the public hearing.
I know
Sorry.
you wish we would.
No, I was just.
We all do.
Listening in at odd times.
Okay.
It's okay.
so you'll have another public hearing on this, once the select board gets it.
They have to get
They'll
it and send it
to
back.
you. Yep,
Both of these things, actually.
yeah, both the ADU
Can we just do
and the
this for
floodplain.
February 13th?
No, this one they need to know about.
No, the two
Oh,
we
yeah,
just
the
sent.
new
Okay.
hearing,
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So the stormwater management bylaw that we currently have in our general bylaws is really considered an illicit connections bylaw. It talks about stormwater going into the sewer systems, runoff into the sewer systems. What we were trying to do was combine the other portion where the planning board issues special permits for work that disturbs more than an acre of land.
Right.
If a development disturbs more than an acre of land, they have to follow specific stormwater management guidelines. Those used to be in your, well, they still are, they're in your planning board
Rules and regs.
regulations, administrative rules and regulations. So what Weston and Sampson has come up with is a way for us to take what we currently have, which is the, it's
Construction.
now called Stormwater Management Bylaw. That's
Oh, that's
section
this.
210.
11? No?
210.
Yeah, 210.
Just change the title.
We're just changing the title, and we're changing a typo that we found in
Okay.
the,
So what's the relationship between that and 211?
so then
I
what
know you're getting there, sorry.
this does is gives and it still gives the select board the authority to, like, fine or people who do an illicit discharge, meaning you're pumping water from your house into the storm sewers, or you've got runoff from your property that's going into storm sewers or drainage swales that could contain contaminants, farmers have had issues with that. So this doesn't change except for the title. Okay, so that's staying, 210 stays. The title is the only thing changing, to clarify what that does.
And
What do,
it's in our bylaws now.
It's in our bylaws now, yep. It's
In,
Chapter
meaning,
210.
meaning the town's bylaws,
in
not
the town's general
ours.
bylaws.
Yes, right.
so what do we have to do
Yeah.
with these?
The reason that I'm bringing it to you is because you're responsible for this new section 211 that we're proposing, which is construction and post-construction stormwater management bylaw.
Right, but what do we as a board, I mean, this is part of the town
It's part of
general
the general
bylaw.
bylaws, and I'm only bringing it to you so you have seen it first. You can recommend it to the select board. It's not a process that you have to do that, because it is a general bylaw, but typically it has to go, someone has to give it to the select board.
We're the authorized enforcement agency,
You are.
basically.
You're the authorized enforcement agency on 210.
And this was drafted by Weston and Sampson.
Yes.
Okay.
So for 210, we just have to have a motion that says we're passing this on to the select board for review?
Yeah, or for inclusion in the warrant.
All right, I move that we recommend the select board adopt chapters 210 as amended and chapter 211 as proposed as part of the general bylaw, or for the warrant.
For the warrant, yes. Second. All in favor?
Pascarello, aye.
Weeks, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Woodland, aye.
Yeah, essentially, this doesn't change anything that you do currently. It just makes it neater and tidier for people to see it.
We pick up speed as we get past 9 PM on our meeting, so.
It's a 2-hour meeting. I'm leaving my house at 5
And you
AM
did,
to go away.
this is great, you already did,
So if we need to leave, we have 3 of us still, so.
Yeah.
sorry.
Is there anything else we need to do this
Yes, you
evening?
need to do
Minutes.
that. You need to do,
Sign that.
sign those documents. That's
What
the
is-
47 Maple Street.
Why do we have a surety covenant? And
That's, you have to sign that for the 47 Maple Street subdivision.
Okay.
I just have copies of it in your
Oh,
packet.
not this one.
No, you
Okay.
don't all have to
It's
sign
all
it.
here.
And what I'd like you to do is just take a vote to authorize Ann to endorse the covenant for the 47 Maple Street definitive subdivision.
Can I have a motion?
I move that we authorize Chair Weeks to sign the surety covenant on behalf of the board for 47 Maple Street development,
Yeah, definitive subdivision.
definitive subdivision.
Okay?
I'll
Need a
second. Second?
All in favor?
Wait, I'd like to read it.
Yeah, I'm going to say, since I'm signing it, I
Excuse
probably
me.
should read it too. You all right? Do you
Yep,
want-
I'm
I
good.
have water here.
No, I'm okay,
I mean,
thank
I
you.
have no germs.
And then the other part of that is to just make a motion to endorse the Mylars as presented for the 47 Maple Street subdivision, definitive subdivision. We had already gone over this in the past, but I was supposed to have them at the last meeting and didn't have them. They were upstairs, so here they are.
So this was reviewed by council, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Was Spring Hill reviewed by council?
Did the homeowners council review their papers? Sorry. I didn't say that
Did
tonight.
Spring Hill's council, did our council say you could run into some problems here?
Right.
With the covenant for,
Spring Hill. We're talking about the Spring Hill
oh, I'm
papers.
sorry, no.
Probably out of turn, we shouldn't be.
We're just stuck on the sadness.
Okay, you probably need me to sign this now, because
We
I'm
have
not
a
gonna
motion
be-
and a second, but I don't think we voted yet before you sign it, just in case you want to be official.
Yeah, well, Mr. Anderson's reading, so whenever he's done.
You'll notice in that covenant that it refers to lots
2, 3, and
2,
4?
3, and 4, and it does not affect or limit.
Is the existing
Yeah,
house?
it's the
Right.
existing house, and they
Yep.
plan to
Renovate.
cut that off and sell it
Yeah.
almost immediately, so they'll be
Yeah.
coming with an A&R to divide that off. So these are the Mylars, and unfortunately, there are 10 pages, and I need everyone's signature.
On every page?
Need the meeting to be open for us to do this?
We already,
Or should we?
undersigned.
We could go to your office if we need to, so
Yeah,
it
you
doesn't have to
can
be,
sign.
yeah, it doesn't have to be under the meeting.
No.
We just
And
need a
the only
motion
thing
to
is
say
the-
we're going to sign.
Oh, the motion to endorse these, yeah.
Correct.
Still
Do we have to
in
vote on the surety motion?
Yes, we do.
I thought you just
All in favor? Do I
Aye.
have a second? I have a second,
We
right?
did have a second, yeah.
Weeks says aye.
Woodland, aye.
Anderson?
I
Okay, carries. I move that
That's
we
how this stuff happens.
endorse the Mylar for the 47 Maple Street definitive subdivision plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. I've
We're already
redlined
out
the
there
minutes if
moving
you guys
things
want.
around, so.
I'm gonna start signing.
We don't have to do minutes tonight, right? Let's just start signing.
Can we, I think,
Oh, we have two sets, yeah, we gotta,
can we please table those until the next meeting?
The
The
minute.
minutes?
it's fine by me.
Fine.
Do you need a motion to do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we table the minutes from January 9th and December 12th till our next meeting on February,
13th?
thank you, 13th.
All, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Henderson, aye.
Woodland, aye.
Okay, thank you.
Does
Just
it
because
matter
I gotta
where
get
you
up so
sign?
early.
Yeah, get going.
Just up in
Keep
the
signing,
corner.
start signing.
I know.
Do we have to?
It has to
Did
be
you guys un-
under
sorry.
work.
Oh, we haven't
We haven't
adjourned
ended.
yet,
We
no.
haven't adjourned.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Wait.
Wait, I have
Sorry,
another
I've been
matter.
spacing out and trying to pay attention.
No, it's all right. We're all like
Hey,
deleting.
good night, everybody. Thank you.
One other matter is may not have whatever come up before.
Okay.
So
Yes.
for the minutes with the red lines, I redline them. I send them to Margaret or to Catherine and Margaret. Does anybody think there's any reason why I can't just send it to everybody? Don't respond to them. I don't
Correct.
think it's an open meeting law violation. There's no deliberation
I'd be
going on.
thrilled if you could
Yes,
send it
if
to
you
all
do
of
that,
us.
just send it to Margaret, have Margaret send them back
I'll
out.
send you the red line version.
Yes,
Have
send us the
Margaret
red line.
send
Just
it
so
out.
everybody's
Yeah.
got them before.
But it has to come from her.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll take care of
That's
that.
it?
Are we gonna get?
That was it. That's all I
Can
had.
we get a fifth member appointed before the election?
I think that's their goal.
We had two very exciting tie votes tonight, Dave.
That's exactly my point. So the select board is gonna do it?
I believe they're looking for somebody.
Yeah,
If they had
have-
someone step up, I think they would.
Not that I feel like, we should have maybe, a more diverse kind of grouping people on the board too, so.
I think they're going to do that. So in the interest of saving some paper, should we take all of our minutes and give them to Margaret for our next meeting, so you don't have to print them out again?
Sure, I won't lose those on my desk.
Of course.
So confident.
Yes, you can leave me all of
Them
your
to
papers.
me, I'll organize them.
Come on.
Here.
No,
Could
I'll-
just
I'll
stick
take
them in
and
my
give them back to you for
bag and
sure.
pull them back out again. There you go.
Okay.
I
You
just
can leave me
make
all
some
of your
notes on
papers.
one
The
thing.
vice chair and the secretary.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, I need to start signing Mylars.
Yes,
go
So
for it.
can you,
Why don't you go
somebody
first?
can
I'm
make the
wondering if
motion to
we want-
adjourn
I
while I'm
want-
doing that?
I'd like to make a motion.
No, wait, hold on. I have another thought, which is,
I can listen to it from
yeah,
over
you
there.
can, start signing, but,
You can even leave.
I'm wondering if this board wants to take up discussion strictly as an advisory capacity of the school. We obviously don't have any jurisdiction. It's not ours, but we did, no, at a future meeting.
Who's got?
I sent you mine, I gave you mine,
At the top.
RW, it's on the bottom of
Is
one.
Dave, do you have minutes? Take up discussion of the school for what?
From a perspective of land use in the town,
It's not our town.
it absolutely impacts land use in our town.
Isn't the
Yeah.
proposed school going to be in Hamilton?
Yeah, but it changes how Bucher is going to be used. It impacts how we conceive of life in this town and land use in this town.
Is the Bucher kids moving into that school?
It's gonna
Yeah.
kindergarten.
It's
So
going
there'll be no
there'll be
elementary
pre-K and
school?
K.
No,
at
there has
Bucher.
to be a school building in Wenham.
That's right. That's why I was asking that.
Yeah, no.
But it won't be what it is now.
It's not gonna be.
Oh, it'll just be
the
pre-K.
day that we all know about.
Okay, that's technical, I guess, yeah, true.
I mean, to what? Well, how is it going to change the land use of Bucher if it's still going to be a school?
It's going to be a pre-K and a K. It's not going to be a K through 5.
Right.
Which means you're going to have,
At least right now.
right now, it is the institution in this town. It is the place where I would say 75 to 90% of civic engagement goes on in this town, and that's going to evaporate overnight.
Interesting.
And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like, I'm sure the select board, maybe you can say, Dave, you're off point and we have too much to do and go take it up with the select board, but we are the body charged with consideration of land use and in this town.
Basketball is still happening.
I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, hey, North Carolina's coming up to play again.
By the way, the new elementary school, if you attended the thing, is current registration is 681. It is being built with a capacity for an additional 60 students.
That's it?
Tonight, we just approved a
That's it?
potential for another 1,200 residential units in this town. And
and 3A.
presumably, they will have 24 over in Hamilton, 2,400 plus 3A.
Assuming that all of
Plus
this
3A.
can be built.
Well, the ADUs can be.
Yeah.
They have to have septic for the additional bedrooms.
They already have septic.
Well, they have to have.
I only have a 3-bedroom septic
But look,
in my house, so.
we're
it would have
building
to- yeah.
potentially a $140 million elementary school with a potential for 10% increase in enrollment, when we have a potential for over 125% increase in housing units in the town.
Yeah.
That's something that isn't being accounted for. Another 140 million?
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to pay something to renovate the two other buildings, because Bucher's in the best shape of all of them.
It's the oldest and in the best shape.
Yep, that tells you something.
It really does. It really does.
What does it say? I have my
It
ideas.
tells you
but-
that the
Sorry.
Building
shoddy
materials in
construction
50s and 60s were trash, yeah.
Right.
For what?
Bad.
They were bad.
In the 50s?
In 60s? Yeah.
Well, as compared to whenever Buke was built, which
Yeah, the
was
high
like
school I went to was built in the
1920 or
50s, and
something.
it was cut down about 10 or 15 years ago because it was not maintainable.
No.
No,
I mean, look at your
Give me
house.
that formal copy.
Thing's still standing.
still standing.
I move that we adjourn.
No,
You
well,
have the formal copy?
yeah.
All in
Until
favor?
February 13th.
Aye, at 7 PM.
Aye.
Seniority order?
Oh, we're getting very sloppy.
Did you guys
Good
vote?
job.
Anderson, aye.
Weeks
good.
aye.